Watch it go.
Well, a terrific Wednesday afternoon. How are you? And welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. And it is game day. The Oilers taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champion, who is definitely not playing like a defending Stanley Cup champion. The Vegas Golden Knights were unreal to start the season, but really, since December 1st, not good. And they're not really getting better. If you go to March 1st, you know, they're 26th in the NHL in goals against at 3.41. And before you say, well, yeah, but they got injuries. Okay, but in the 9 games that Pietrangelo's played, they got a 3.55 goals against. It's actually worse when their best team ends in there. They are not the team that has played. Now, could they be capable of doing it for a game or two? Yes, they've shown that. But they haven't found any consistency defensively in a long time. And you're the Edmonton Oilers tonight. You have to find a way to go at the Vegas Golden Knights, even though Connor McDavid won't be in the lineup. Do not expect 97 to play tonight. The good news, he skated on his own today, but that doesn't mean he's playing tonight. You know what? Maybe Friday, I could see them, giving it as much rest as possible at this point. There's zero reason to rush 97. Zero. If there was a less than zero number, that's what it would be. Now, I know that people want to say a minus, but you know what I mean. So, no McDavid. You'll have Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Hyman. You're going to have Kane with Henrique and Fogle, Holloway with McLeod and Perry, Janmark and Brown, and then Carrick or Ryan. I'm going to guess it's Sam Carrick. That's not confirmed. I'm going to guess it's Carrick because he didn't play on the weekend. So, I don't think the coach wants to keep guys out too long, so that's what I see happening. On the back end, your same 6D, I do think Troy Stecher will get into the lineup on Friday night when Calvin Pickard will be the goalie against the Arizona Coyotes. It will be Stuart Skinner tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. The Gregor Show, as always, is presented by our title sponsor, PlayAlberta.ca, where you can get in the game. Lotto 649. You want to get in that game? Hey, why not? A cool 28 mil up for grabs. Tonight, of course, the Oilers game a little bit earlier. Hey, do you want to take your kids? Guess what? We have a pair of seats, great seats where the Oilers attack twice, and we're helping out the Alzheimer's today. So all your money, if you want a pair of seats in the lower bowl where the Oilers attack twice tonight, the 6:30. Actually, it's going to be a 6:42 puck drop if you want to be exact. We can give you an exact start time so you know. Puck drop will be at 6:42, so you'll have lots of time. Maybe you can take one of your kids because it's a little bit earlier to start, so you'll get home a little bit earlier on a school day. So if you want to go, 833-401-1440. 833-401-1440. That is the text line. That's where you can text in your bid, or you can call Connor at the same number. And away you go. We'll get your thoughts on the Oilers. The Blue Jays going for their first sweep of the season. They are currently trailing in the fourth inning, 1-0 to Seattle. Last night in the National Hockey League, the Detroit Red Wings continue to struggle. Alex Ovechkin becomes the first player in NHL history to have 18 seasons with at least 30 goals. That is damn impressive. He was tied with Mike Gartner. But now Ovi has the most 40-goal seasons at 13. He's tied for the most 50-goal seasons at 9. It's it's pretty impressive. Like you look at a guy and you'll say, "Oh yeah, Gartner," and he did score a lot of goals. He did it over time, but he was Mike Gartner. I'm trying to think. I think he might have scored 50 once. I got to double check. Definitely not more than that. Yeah, he scored 50 once, and he scored 40. Quite a few times. Want to say 7 or 8. But Ovechkin obviously is on a much different level when it comes to consistency and goal scoring. So 18 years of at least 30 goals for the grade 8, and man, he's really come to life down the stretch in the second half for the Washington Capitals as they currently hold down the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference with 85 points. They have 4 games left. Pittsburgh and Detroit have 84 points. They're one back, also with 4 games left. And then you got the Flyers. Oh, like, come on. Flyers are done. They're 1-6-3 in their last 10, and they just got spanked last night, 9-3 by the Montreal Canadiens. And it was a great run, but I think I can confidently say the Flyers, they're not in it. It comes down to the Penguins, the Red Wings, and the Capitals. The Islanders are in a pretty good spot here. They won again. They defeated the Rangers 3-2. We're up 3-0. The Rangers made it close, but the Islanders hold on, and they have third place in the Metro, 2 points up on the Capitals, 3 up on the Penguins and the Red Wings. So you think about that. Even if you just go 2-2, if you're the Islanders, that means the Penguins need to get they need to go 3-0-1 to tie you. And Detroit, same thing. So now the Islanders, hey, a lot of people thought, they haven't beat anybody. Well, they beat the Rangers. Now they do play the Rangers again. And Peter Laviolette trying to fire things up, thinking that Pelech, a cheap shot on Zibanejad. Well, of course, now, when you show it in slow motion, watch it in real time. That's incidental contact all day, every day, twice on Sundays. That's what it is. But I love when the coaches get fired up. Think about Bednar trying to say that the Ekholm hit wasn't clean. Guys protect their players. They get emotional. You say things right after the fact. Come on. Pelech, neither one of those guys knew the other guy was coming, right? And everyone's like, well, Pelech saw him. I'm like, well, if Pelech saw him because he has this great peripheral vision, why didn't Zibanejad see him? Like, come on. Give me a break. I'm not picking sides. I'm looking forward to the rematch. Want to see what happens. You know what? Add a little fire. The only unfortunate part is right now it seems very unlikely that the Rangers and the Islanders could meet in the first round. The Islanders would have to be the second wildcard team. It would be awesome. I'd like to see it. And the Penguins, I guess, maybe could catch them. We'll find out. They do play each other on the final day of the regular season. That would be nice. But Islanders, Rangers, I love rivalries. So that's who I'd like to see in the first round. And then that means the Penguins, Hurricanes, not a real big rivalry, but at least there's the recent Gensel trade. So maybe that would add a little spice to it. Also last night, Kucherov and McKinnon, those guys are just going blow over blow, back and forth. Kucherov gets 3 points in the earlier game. McKinnon comes back with 4 of his own, including a hat trick. He now has 51 goals in the season. He first time to reach the 50-goal mark for Nathan McKinnon. He now needs 4 assists in his final 3 games. If he does that, he will become only the 5th player all time to have 50 goals and 90 assists in a season. Gretzky, Lemieux, LaFontaine, and Yzerman are the only players to do it. So I know everybody's talking about 100 assists, and it's great, and it is. Don't get me wrong. But 50 goals and 90 assists, that's pretty damn good too. Right? Austin Matthews, his quest for 70 goals, stays alive. He scored his 66th last night. And I see everybody asking the question, what's more impressive, 70 goals, 100 assists? It's a good question. Historically, if we go off historic numbers, you will say that the 100 assists is more impressive because only 3 players have ever done it. 8 players have scored 70 goals. Now, Gretzky and Lemieux have done both. Bobby Orr's the other guy with 100 assists. You throw in Brett Hull, Yari Curry, Timo Solani, Alex McGillney. Who am I missing? Bernie Nichols also had 70 goals. So it's hard to do, man. It's really hard to do. So just historically, if you went off of that, you could make the argument that 100 assists is maybe a little bit more impressive. I don't believe that. I wouldn't have Matthews in my top 3 for MVP right now, to be honest. But he'll get some votes, no question about it. And that doesn't discount a season. It's been an unreal year. It's outstanding, but it is hard to do what either one of them are doing. Really hard. Phil Esposito, that's the other guy. I was trying to think who's the other guy who had 70 goals. Of course, Phil Esposito when Gretzky broke his record of 76 goals. Connor McDavid could get to 100 assists because I expect him to play before the end of the regular season. I would say the most likely, like if I was super confident, I'd say next Monday against San Jose, for sure he'll play. But he could play before that. It's kind of where it's at right now with Connor McDavid. I think the San Jose game would be the one I'd be most confident in, but he might slide into the Vancouver game, maybe Arizona. we'll see. It's obviously not that serious, but it's enough to keep you out of the game and miss a few games. So not the end of the world. Gordon opens up the bid. He's at $300 right now. Also, big story in the National Hockey League. Frank Seravalli has did all the legwork on this, but it looks like, and now this isn't a surprise. Cons, we've been talking about this on the show for a while. So remember when Utah's owner put out that tweet on the same day as the 5 players? They're like, oh, Utah really wants a team, blah, blah, blah. Like it was just a distraction. Basically, he was saying, hey, you want a team, you're going to have to do this. Even though everybody's going to see through it, we're still going to try to do it. It was like the worst PR plan ever. Then he came out last week and was like, hey, if we had a team, what name should it be? Nobody's doing that unless you knew you were close. And Frank Seravalli tweeting, the players have been informed that something of a verbal agreement is in place to relocate to Salt Lake City. So we'll see about how it's going. Sounds like the Smith Entertainment Group, who owns the Jazz and the Coyotes, are pretty far down the process. And you think like Marielli, like he's an owner. This is something like he bought the team. He got it for cheap. Like to me, good for him. He's going to make a huge amount of money off of it. Right, on the sale anyway. And I don't think he lost $700 million over the time, but I think he bought it for $300 million. He's probably going to sell it for close to $1 billion. Right? I don't think they wanted him in. The city of Arizona didn't want to do anything with him. They can talk about this auction till they're blue in the face. Even if they win the auction, I don't think they're going to get anything. So it looks like the Coyotes could be in Utah as early as next season. They got a facility now. They'll have to do some renovations in there. It's more of a basketball facility right now. Now, do they have time to get all those renos done between now and next season? Who knows? But if you're trying to get this done in April, then maybe you can. We'll see. So we might actually have Flying Frank on the show today to discuss his story. As I'd recommend follow him, and he keeps updating it at dailyfaceoff.com. So it looks like the time is coming. I know some of you will be disappointed because many people go to Arizona, you go golfing, and you mix in an Oilers road trip. Cons, have you been to Arizona for a game?
No. Something I certainly thought would be a fun time if I could get down there and do it. But if that time has come, so be it. I'd be okay with it as well. If Salt Lake City can entertain a team, get them there with the fan support. And like you said, the stadium there, the Delta Center right now, for hockey, it can hold 14,000 people. So a little bit of a boost from Mullet Arena.
Little bit, yeah. But still, I don't think it's what they want. I don't like this is a temporary one. I wouldn't be surprised if they get a new facility or they do some renovations to make it for sure. Guys, McKinnon and Kucherov seem to have more of a killer instinct on feasting on lower end teams than McDavid. Not sure if that's true, but seems like it this year, Drew. Well, actually, Drew, you know who has the most points per game against the top teams? It's Kucherov by actually quite a wide margin. So he's not feasting on the bottom feeder teams any more really than the McDavid or McKinnon do. So I know people are always trying to look for things. They're trying to discount guys. Since when? Points are points. Anaheim beat LA last night. There's no guarantee that you always beat the bad teams. Stop trying to find things to disparage players. Right? Kucherov and McKinnon are both having unreal years, Oilers fans. It doesn't mean that Connor McDavid is an elite. It has nothing to do with Connor McDavid. It has everything to do with McKinnon and Kucherov, and what they're doing is amazing this year. It's amazing. Outstanding for them. It's fun to watch. Did you see Nathan McKinnon last night? What an absolute train. Oh, my God. He was flying. To me, I like excitement. I like watching those guys. Now, well, he scored some of his points against this team, and then this guy scored some of his points against that team. Like, what the hell are we doing? Just enjoy it. You don't have to try to downplay it and be like, well, Connor's still better. Don't be insecure. That's the worst fan who can't, hey, you know what? They're having a really good year. I still like Connor McDavid. I think Connor McDavid's really good. The players just voted him best player in the game. I think we all know he's the best player in the game. Other guys are having great years. Full stop. Nothing else. Right? Like I watch online, people say, well, McKinnon should win. Kucherov should win. But then they always have to find like a net. It doesn't strengthen your point when you have to try to disparage a guy. Any negative, well, Kucherov's doing this, he's doing, I don't care what he's doing. It's an unreal year what he's doing. Unbelievable. We've never seen a guy, well, Gretzky way back in the day used to, and that's when his teammates would be second in league scoring and still be 70 points ahead of them. Like, it's crazy. And I look at McKinnon, I look at Kucherov. I think it's going to be a good vote. I can see how you make arguments for either side. They're both really impressive. And they do it very differently. That's what I like about it. McKinnon he's just like power. Kucherov, you see the players voted Kucherov the best playmaker in the NHL. I think a lot of people don't see Kucherov enough to really appreciate how good he is. All right. And there's some people like, yeah, but you know what? He had that surgery one time and I didn't like the timing of it. So now I don't like him. What? He's a pretty good player. I'll tell you, you know what else he is? He's an unreal draft pick, 58th overall. 58th overall. That is as great. So, you know what? They're coming down to the wire, man, and they're just going blow for blow. That's what I like about it. One guy has a good game, the other guy responds with a good game. That's great. It's too bad that those guys didn't face each other more often. Like, how many were excited to watch McDavid and McKinnon head to head last Friday? I know I was. It just added something to it. Too bad you don't get to see Kucherov more. I think it'd be fantastic. Coming up on the show, man, we got a loaded show for you today. We will hear from David Amber from Hockey Night in Canada. We got Yaremchuk talking Oilers. Jake Lanman, man, we'll talk a little baseball with us. Rupper is by. It's Wednesday. We got Shane 90 giving us the Vegas side of things. Why can't they defend? What the hell's going on? On paper, they should be good. But, man, the results on ice defensively, putrid. Since March 1st, the Vegas Golden Knights are 26th in the NHL in goals against per game at 3.41. 26th for a team that prides itself on being a good defensive team. Something's amiss in Vegas. Spec will be by. We'll hear from Knobloch, also Matias Ekholm. Interesting answer from Ekholm. And the one element of the game, because Ekholm's quote was, he's not going to be, super focused on the result tonight. Obviously, he wants to win, but he feels like there's something bigger than beating Vegas tonight. And so it's about the process. And if they play well and just happen to lose, that's okay. He doesn't want to win by playing poorly. Like, obviously, he wants to win. I should rephrase that. You always want to take a win, but he wants to make sure the process stays the same. So if there's one element of the Oilers game and there's one clear weakness, one area of their game that they got to shore up here before the postseason, it's a penalty kill. And we'll dive into that a little bit, but there's some less than flattering numbers on the PK. Remember, their penalty kill was 89.5% in the first 33 games under Knobloch. Then they went away for the All-Star break. I don't know what the hell happened, but remember, they came back. They lost their first game in 17 against Vegas. And then after that, in the final 30 games here, the Oilers' penalty kill is 72.8%. Over 30 games, not good enough. Not even close. And so we'll look at what's going wrong there as well. Take a quick break. We'll come back. David Amber joins us on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Be sure to text us 833-401-1440 in our email inbox. 2:24, breaking story. Frank Seravalli had it. He keeps updating his story. It sounds like the Coyotes players will be here on Friday. Have been informed that there's been a verbal agreement. Their team is going to be relocating to Salt Lake. And, once the season's over for them, of course, which I think is the 18th of April, they'll be packing up and moving really quickly. Now, that's obviously not necessarily going to impact the players right away. Once the season's over, the season's over. Some guys stay there if their kids are in school and such like that. But looks like they'll be moving to Utah. So pretty big story. Not a shock. We've talked about this for a while. I thought it was only a matter of time. You couldn't stay in there in that arena, and really the city just they tried lots of different suburbs, and there just didn't seem to be an appetite right now. And I wonder how much of it is the owner. And I wonder, I think the NHL, not maybe right away, but in the future, will go back to Arizona. If they have a facility in a better place, I won't be shocked at all. It's a major market, and they will look at it and say, hey, we think we can bring it back. They've done it in others. Like they brought Winnipeg back. Right? There's talk about Atlanta. They've gone back to other places before. Colorado, of course. Remember the Rockies way back when? Now it's the Avs, pretty successful. So don't be surprised if in the future you see another Arizona team, but looks like it'll be Utah. And I wonder what their team name will be. Let's get to our big guest of the day, brought to you by the Spruce Grove Saints. And the BCHL playoffs begin tonight. The Saints tomorrow. They will be at home, though. Want to get your tickets? Hey, it's going to be a great time, baby. Who doesn't love playoffs? So get your tickets at the Saints office, or you can get them at the door. There'll be some walk-ups, but highly recommend don't wait, because the playoff games in Spruce Grove always sell out. David Hamber from Hockey Night in Canada joins us. And David, this news today, it's not a real massive shock. Maybe the surprise is that they're finally leaving Arizona. A lot of people thought this should have happened many years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess it finally came to a head. And, there must have been an overall sense of, I don't know if embarrassment's the right word, but it's just, you watch the games, when the Oilers roll into Mullet Arena. I mean, it's not a professional sports venue. It's just not set up properly. I think you hit it on the head on the conversation, the dialogue you were having before I jumped on about the ownership situation. I mean, it's been a revolving door of troubled ownership groups there. Alex Morello is the latest, the one. He bought the team from Andrew Barroway. That was a mess. We all remember Jerry Moyes files for bankruptcy. The league had to take ownership of the team for a number of years. It's just been one problem after another. I don't think it's a market issue as much as it is an arena / ownership issue that's plagued this franchise for the last 20 years, essentially. And it's hard, right? You have this guy courting you in Ryan Smith. If this report is valid and correct, I mean, you have this guy courting you, and he's got all the stability and a great track record and very progressive thinking guy who wants to build forward with this franchise in a city that has a pretty good appetite for sports. We see that with the Utah Jazz, and it's hard to ignore that. And then you have this fledgling franchise that's really struggling, and it's an anchor on the league revenues. It's the owners don't like and the players don't like. So it kind of makes sense. I don't think they're done in Arizona. I think, like everyone else, there's been a very, healthy appetite to have a team there. It's one of the bigger markets, and it's one of the more affluent markets in the U.S. And I think under the right management, right ownership, I shouldn't say management, but the right ownership and the right venue, it could be a very successful franchise there. So I wouldn't say the door is shut in Arizona, but it looks like at least this chapter, they're ready to sort of shut the book on this chapter and move forward.
Yeah, I think probably a few year break and stuff wouldn't hurt them. And, if they get a new facility, then the NHL will come back. The NHL is going to at some point expand. We can all debate if that's the right or wrong thing. I think there's just too much money out there for them not to do it, for the owners, but we'll see. I like 32 teams. I think if they get to 34, 6, they'll probably change, playing everybody once, probably. Maybe they won't, but I'm guessing they might. Let's focus on the ice now. The Eastern Conference playoffs, the Detroit Red Wings and the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, man, it's been painful to watch for the Flyers. Like, they were such a feel-good story that was great, and now, like, last night kind of seemed to put the exclamation point. They just look like a team that's done, David. Like, they got waxed by Montreal.
Who said, was it Denny Green, the old NFL coach? They are who we thought they were. And I say that tongue in cheek. Yeah. Listen, Philadelphia Flyers deserve a lot of accolades and a lot of our respect, because how many times do teams go into a season with low expectations, and whether it's the players or whether it's the management or whatever, everyone sort of says, well, no one expects anything from us, so it's okay if we don't, play our hardest or we don't do as well as we should. That was never the mantra we saw with the Philadelphia Flyers this year. They worked hard from, towards pushing the guys, and they over exceeded their expectations, for the first 65 games. And they've hit a roadblock. And whether, analysts I've talked to on our show say, yeah, they're out of gas. Torts can keep yelling and screaming and stomping his feet, but the guys, they got what they could get out of the team. And quite frankly, missing Carter Hart has proven to be a problem. I mean, goaltending isn't just something you can snap your fingers and solve that kind of problem overnight. And that ended up catching up to them. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty definitive final nail in the coffin, and it's pretty wild. People were tweeting out what the playoff probability was for the Philadelphia Flyers. And on March 24th, the playoff probability for the Philadelphia Flyers, who were rolling pretty nicely along, was 88%. The playoff probability on that same day for the Pittsburgh Penguins was 1.7%. So it's pretty dramatic collapse, a pretty dramatic resurrection as far as the Pittsburgh Penguins are concerned, and they still have some work to do. But, that's what makes sports great. I always say it's the best reality TV, Jason, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And the Flyers, the last, 7-8 games have just been absolutely abysmal. And as you say, the exclamation point last night, a 9-3 loss to the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, it's that one was tough to watch. And like their coach said, he's not even questioning their try. They just, they're not that skilled ultimately, but man, you give up a 9 spot at any time, especially when you're battling for your playoff life. I don't think it looks good. Meanwhile, the Islanders are just like, oh, hey, Philly, Washington, Detroit, thanks for opening the door. They're going to run through it here a little bit. What did you make of the Pelech-Zibanejad collision last night? And I thought it was nothing. I was two guys that didn't see each other coming. And the Ranger coach Laviolette trying to, just like Bednar saying the Ekholm hit was cheap on Rantanen. I think it's coaches are just, they'll protect their players at this time of year, and you'll say anything, and you'll be like, guess what? I am completely biased in what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I didn't make much of it either, Jason. I'll be honest with you. And on Jeff Merrick's show earlier today, he made the point of saying, Adam Pelech probably has a pretty good respect level to not take cheap shots at guys' heads. He's had a series of concussions himself, so he'd be a bit more sensitive to that whole issue. Doesn't mean, he couldn't deliver a dirty hit at some point, but I didn't see that in that play at all. I thought it was two guys who were looking in the other direction, and they banged into each other, and it was a really unfortunate situation. I have nothing but respect for Peter Laviolette. I consider him one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. He has his ring. He's led 3 teams to the Stanley Cup final. He's right up there amongst the top winningest head coaches in NHL history. However, I think there was maybe some gamesmanship in what he said post-game. I'm not even sure how much he truly believes what he was saying, as much as it might have just been a message, trying to fish for some help down the road for the New York Rangers. What makes it interesting, though, is sometimes coaches say these things and it just goes into thin air. These two teams do play again. And what will be really interesting is, okay, if they're going to, I think it's Saturday at MSG, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, are we going to see another line brawl to start the game? Are we going to see Matt Martin and Matt Rempe lined up against one another on the first shift of the game? I don't know. I didn't think it was dirty. I don't think it requires, vigilante justice going the other way. But, I'm not Peter Laviolette. I don't control these things. So it makes for an interesting, second chapter to be written on Saturday.
David Amber from Hockey Night in Canada joins us. David, the race for the Art Ross is fantastic. It's likely going to be a very close race for the Hart Trophy, and Kucherov and McKinnon, McDavid likely out of both with the definitely out of the Art Ross with the injury, and probably out of the Hart, and that's fine. I don't what those other guys have had unbelievable seasons with them, and I don't want to pick a side, but is there, like, when you watch the two of them, which one kind of do you like one more than the other? Or is this one of you just like, man, it's like choosing between two of your kids. You can't really pick.
You're talking about McKinnon and Kucherov right now?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to start by saying I'm not ready to write McDavid off. If there's one thing we've seen from Connor McDavid, is he's the ultimate competitor. I don't know. Is it definitive he's not playing tonight? Is that the definitive word?
Yeah. Well, my sources tell me he's not playing. I'm 99.999% certain he's not playing.
Got it. Okay. So, I mean, listen, he might only have 5 games left as opposed to 6 games, and he has 9 points to make up. I'm just not ready. I think we've seen what McDavid can do, and I'm just not ready to be like, well, he's done with the Art Ross race, because I know, he's such a great competitor and such an amazing player. But still, having said that, you're right. Kucherov and McKinnon, there's cases to be made for both of them. And I tweeted this out last night. We've been keeping this eye, obviously, on Connor to hit the 100 assist mark, 4th player ever, blah, blah, blah. And here's Kucherov sitting there now with 96 assists. He actually, and if McDavid's not playing tomorrow, he actually might get to 100 assists this season before McDavid, which is shocking. So that's an incredible milestone in itself. He leads his teammates, right, by over 50 points. His next highest teammate on his team is Braden Point. He has 53 more points than him. If he wins an Art Ross, he has 100 assists, and he is lapping his own teammates in points, which proves his worth. That's a really compelling argument to make for Nikita Kucherov. Having said all of that, did you watch Nathan McKinnon last night?
Oh, buddy, that was unreal game by as they call him, the Nate Dog in Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and he did this without his running mate, Rantanen. Like, he basically just took the team, put them on his shoulders, and said, I'm going to go into video game mode, and here we go. And he didn't do it once, he didn't do it twice. But it was for 3 end-to-end rushes against NHL players where he made them look like, statues, basically, pylons. It's unbelievable. So my eye test, if you said to me, who's the MVP based on the eye test, who's been the best player this year? And it wasn't just last night. I think Nathan McKinnon has been that eye test guy all year. Those accolades I just gave Kucherov are all meaningful. And I know not everyone agrees with this sentiment, but I'm telling you, if Austin Matthews gets 70 goals and has 20% more goals scored than the next highest goal scorer, which is currently what he has over Sam Reinhart, who's second in the league, that can't be just dismissed. Doesn't mean he should be the favorite, but some people are, who cares? It doesn't really matter. He doesn't have as many points. I just say, well, I don't know. I don't think you can just dismiss a 70 goal season, which we haven't seen in 30 plus years. So I'd like to think he's in this conversation. David Pastrnak might be in this conversation. Sidney Crosby is kind of like Taylor Hall when he led New Jersey to the playoffs almost single-handedly. It feels like that for Crosby if the Penguins make it there. I think these guys are all in consideration. Connor Halley, you can make an argument for. To me, Jason, of all the things we're excited about over the next 10 days, I think the race to the Hart Trophy might be the most compelling storyline there is.
Yeah, it should be. It'll be fascinating to watch because there's lots of other angles you can look at. Kucherov, he's well ahead of Point, no question. But actually, his 4 teammates have more points than McKinnon's 4 most point teammates, guys. Because Rantanen obviously has a lot, but then it drops down. The thing about Colorado that concerns me is they got McKinnon and Rantanen, and they're unreal offensively. But after that, it's a big drop off. If they got to play Dallas in the second round, who's got 9 guys with 50 points, and that could be a hell of a series.
Listen, it might not be Dallas. It might be Dallas versus Vegas. And I would honestly. That to me, I'm really hopeful. I'm really hopeful for the Oilers to win tonight. I cheer for all the Canadian teams. If you follow me on Twitter, or if you follow me when we're doing shows and everyone's laughing because I get, I'm really anxious for the Cup to come back to Canada. I would love to see Edmonton win tonight, not just for the 2 points, but to just put another gap between them and hopefully having to face Vegas in the first round. Because if Vegas wins tonight, as you know, then that becomes the matchup at least overnight. I don't think you want any part of Vegas, and I don't mean Edmonton. I mean anyone. So let Dallas and Vegas have to go toe to toe, which would be such an incredible series to watch as well. So it'd be doubly purposeful, right? So I'm hopeful. You're right. Colorado, that road could be Winnipeg, which is certainly not an easy out. And if they get through the Jets, which I'm not sure they will, then it would be Dallas or Vegas potentially. My God, talk about having to earn your way into a Western Conference final.
Oh yeah, no, it should be some great races, which makes it very interesting. Lastly, the one team, I don't know if you saw the Jets and Nashville. My goodness, Nashville was all over them, but Hellebuck was Hellebuck last night, and it was 34-9 at one point. It's ridiculous. But I look at the Jets, and at some point, they're going to have to get more. As good as Hellebuck is, I just don't think in today's NHL you can win if you don't have some offense. Aiden Hill and Vegas had great defensive numbers last year, but they had lots of offense too, right? How concerned are you about the Jets and their inconsistencies offensively?
The thing that really concerns me about the Jets, first of all, I do think they're built for the playoffs, but the thing that has been troublesome since day one this year is their power play is horrible. And considering who they have some playmakers, they have some finishers. When you look at Connor and Ehlers, they obviously have a great quarterback in Josh Morrissey. It should be so much better than it is. 5-on-5, they're a great team. They rarely get caved in the way they did last night with Nashville 5-on-5. That was an anomaly, and that happens sometimes because Nashville is a damn good team. But the thing that concerns me is it'll be a really hard recipe to win if you're getting, outscored on the man advantage game in, game out in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that to me should be the biggest red flag. I don't know how you change that. I mean, the playoffs start in 10 days. I'm just wondering, can they find some mojo? Can they find some magic to Foley and Monahan and some of these guys they brought in? Can they help this power play and get them to be, doesn't have to be tops in the league, but it can't be near the bottom, which is where you find them, since the beginning of this year. Because I really love the team 5-on-5. They have a great goalie, as you pointed out. They have skilled defensemen. They have some size, some grit. They will grind the hell out of you. Their forward group, their third line is their identity line. And they will hammer other teams' defensemen. They'll get the puck deep and they'll really just put some pressure on the other team's defense with their forecheck. So I love a lot about their team, but I agree with you. You're asking a lot. If you're getting nothing from your power play, you're asking a lot 5-on-5 to go up against the likes of Dallas, who have 820 goal scorers, or up against the likes of McKinnon and Rantanen and if Makar, et cetera, and the Oilers for that matter. Like I agree with you full-heartedly, and I think that's the big question mark. If they can get their special teams together, then I really do think the Jets are going to be an incredibly tough outcome playoff time.
David, great to have you on the show, man. We appreciate it. Enjoy the stretch run, and then, of course, the playoffs, where you'll be rather busy.
Yeah, I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun, and enjoy the game tonight. It should be a lot of fun watching on Sportsnet the Oilers and the defending champs.
You betcha. That's David Amber from Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers. Sportsnet. Oilers taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. And the big story in the NHL today, Frank Seravalli is going to join us in about 40 minutes. It's keeps changing and updating. Frank's been updating the story the whole time, but looking more and more like the Coyotes are officially going to be moving to Utah at the end of the regular season. We've talked about this for a few months. I don't think anybody was really shocked, right? Like if you go back and look at the chronological steps that we've seen here, this is not something that just came out of the blue. It's been worked on for quite some time. That was our big guest of the day, brought to you by the Spruce Grove Saints. They're in action tomorrow night at home. Tonight, of course, on the road, but tomorrow at home. And get your tickets. When we come back, we'll talk some Oilers with your Remchuk on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Hi, Brad.
2:45. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. It is game day. The Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. And Gord currently has the bid at 300 bones. We'll end it actually a little earlier today because it's an earlier start. So we will end the auction today around 4:30. All right, just so that gives the winner more time to get to the game. It'll be 6:42. We like to be accurate on this show. 6:42 puck drop tonight. The Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Skinner versus Heel in between the pipes. Let's get to the oil report brought to you by Volvo Cars Edmonton.com. And guess what? They have a very special private sale that goes on tomorrow with massive savings from noon until 9 p.m. And the cool part about it is, because they've been a big sponsor of the show for a long time, if you want to go down and get the great savings, all you got to do is say, when you come, they'll ask you, well, who are you here for? Just mention the Gregor Show, and you will get in. And you are privy to a very special private sale, because I'm not buying a car. So I said, hey, let's let our listeners benefit from it. So it's one day only. It's tomorrow from noon until 9 at VolvoCarsEdmonton.com. They're having some drastically reduced pricing on a one-day sale. So if you're thinking about it, all you got to do is mention the Gregor Show when you show up. Okay, that'll get you in the door. Then you can negotiate your magic. All right. Let's welcome in from Oilers Nation and Daily Faceoff, Tyler Yaremchuk joins us. And Ty, the Oilers taking on Vegas tonight. There will be no Connor McDavid in the Oilers lineup. He is going to rest. I know he took a twirl this morning, which is great. So it means it's not super serious, but he's not going to play tonight. Which player are you looking or maybe most interested in to see what they will do with increased ice time? So obviously a forward, because I don't think McDavid's ice time is going to be impacted by the defense.
Yeah, like I mean, you're not going to overcome this loss by having just one guy step up. That's obviously not what you're asking, but I think I'll go a bit of a different direction. It's Dylan Holloway for me, and I'm writing a piece right now for the website just about how big of an opportunity this could end up being for him, and maybe in a weird, twisted way, it's a bit of silver lining. Holloway was playing great hockey down in Bakersfield the last couple of nights, and now he's going to get a chance to come up, and his season average has been 11 minutes per game time on ice. Last game, the last few games, that third line for the Oilers with Kane, Perry, and McLeod had been playing a pretty decent amount. I think Evander Kane, who was in that left wing spot, was playing 14 minutes a game for the last little bit. So I'm interested to see what Dylan Holloway can do with a regular shift, potentially next to Ryan McLeod, and potentially with 14 to 15 minutes of time on ice.
Yeah, well, there can't be many penalties if he's going to get that much, because I don't see him on special teams yet. But I did talk to Non-Block today about Dylan Holloway, and you look at like, I know there's some people, oh, you should play him ahead of Janmark. No offense, you're not paying attention if you think Dylan Holloway is going to take Matias Janmark's spot on the team. There's no chance. Matias Janmark's our fourth line guy who's ultra reliable and is on the penalty kill. Even though I know the penalty kill struggled, Janmark's numbers are actually pretty good. You could make the argument that they should start Janmark and Brown more on the first unit than Ryan and Ryan and Nugent Hopkins and Derek Ryan, right? A lot of the numbers would back that up. So Janmark ain't going anywhere. Dylan Holloway, I think, is going to get an opportunity here, play some games, but realistically, he probably goes back and starts in the American League playoffs.
You don't think there's anything he can do if he plays, every game here, the rest in different guys, if he gets 5-6 games? I look at him as such an upside play. I know Janmark has what you'd call a high floor of not making a lot of mistakes, can help you on the PK. But with Janmark out of the lineup, you have enough penalty killers still in the mix that you can use. And I know his numbers are good, but again, they have 4 or 5 other guys they can pretty reliably use on the PK. I just look at Holloway and think, if he can get playing to a higher level than we saw at different points this year, he brings so much offensive upside.
Yeah, wow, he hasn't had any upside yet, but I'll say this. So the only way he plays on this team is if he's in a top 9 role. He can't play on your fourth line because he doesn't kill penalties, so he's not going to get any ice time, right? So he has to. It's not so much Janmark. It's like, who are you bumping out of the top 9 to put Holloway in?
Yeah, and I mean, I think maybe for a bit my answer might have been a Corey Perry, and you flip someone over to the right side. But with the way Perry's playing, there's no way you're moving him out of the top 9. And what's unfortunate about the timing of this McDavid injury is that it does disrupt a third line with McLeod, Perry, and Kane that was playing really, really good hockey for a couple of nights. And that, I think, was one of or it was one of my X factors heading down the stretch. It was like, hey, if you can find a third line that can consistently not just break even, but go out and push offense and outscore the other team, you're a lot more of a handful for another team to deal with matchup wise. So yeah, that's a good point. You're probably not just playing Dylan Holloway on the fourth line. You probably need him in a top 9 role. And right now, with the way Perry's humming, he would have been the likely candidate, but there's no way you're doing that.
Yeah. So no, I don't see it at all. But you know what? I say this. I will guarantee everything I have that Holloway will be in your top 9 next year. 100%, not even a question. And you know what? Now all it takes is one injury to somebody in your top 9. And Dylan Holloway can get in, because there's, like, honestly, I think they would move in. I don't think they'd put any of their fourth liners in the top 9 ahead of Holloway. I'll say that. So if there's a banged up injury, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him, which is why I think, McDavid's out, Holloway's recalled, because they want him in their top 9.
Yeah, they didn't just go with the easy route. Sorry. And I mean, recall a Gagne and Ernie, play Connor Brown on the third line. Like, I do like that they're going to Holloway and giving him a look here. Yeah, for sure. Now, looking at the orders, if there's one area of their game, and Matias Ekholm talked about the process, and the final 6 games about their process. The one part of their game that has struggled now since they met Vegas on February 6th, and they're 30 games since, they're 72.8% on the penalty kill. They've allowed 25 goals. Darnell Nurse has been on for 21. His goal per 60 rate prior to, in the first 33 games under Knobloch, was very good at 5. It's at 19 since, right? Like Derek Ryan Nugent Hopkins, their numbers have increased significantly. Cody Cease, who actually plays with Nurse, he's only at 9, right? He's on for 10 fewer goals against, and he's got a goals against per 60 of 9 compared to 19. Like, I really think they might have to look at, because I get that they play the tougher minutes. You start the power play. That means you're out against the other team's first unit 90% of the time. But maybe it's time to start Janmark and Brown. And I know there's not a centerman there, so that's maybe the challenge. But Ekholm and Desharnais maybe, because Ekholm is the one player, his goal against per 60 in the first 33 games was 4.09. In the last 30 games, it's 4.04. It's basically the exact same. So that's something I think they have to look at. Nurse just isn't getting it done on the penalty kill. Yeah, and that you talked about, Holloway needing an injury to the forward group. Like, it's so rare that a team, if like what the Oilers are hoping to do, if a team can go on a long playoff run, that everybody magically stays healthy. And the Oilers have been so lucky over the last couple of years that their blue line has stayed as healthy as it is, because you mentioned right now, I don't think you can trust Nurse in a heavy PK role with the numbers being what they are. What happens if they potentially run into an injury? Like, you can't trust Troy Stetcher in that PK role. You can't call up Philip Broberg and suddenly trust him in that PK role. So I know it's 5 games or 6 games until the playoffs. You're stuck with the group you have, but that's something to watch down the stretch here. Like, they need Darnell Nurse to get that back on track with the PK. I think 5-on-5, he's got to get back on track a little bit, because he hasn't been as effective by my eyes as he was early in the season. So that's one of them who, maybe 3 weeks ago, I would have said, hey, maybe they need to rest some guys, give Stetcher a look here and there. I think right now in the final 6 games with that blue line, especially with a guy like Nurse, it's about getting him playing his best hockey. I don't think you want to just take him out for a load management game if you happen to be locked into the 2 seed by next week.
Yeah, I'll be curious. He's a guy, though, I might want to play him to try to play him out of it. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I don't I will be curious who Stetcher comes in for. I think they want Stetcher to play the right side if they can. But I'm going to watch tonight and the Saturday game and look to see, like, is Kulak getting a little bit more PK time, because his numbers have started to creep up here, Ty, lately, and he's got pretty good numbers on the penalty kill. So it is something that you got to consider it. Like, to me, contracts are irrelevant. They're irrelevant, especially come playoff time, because there's no cap. So go with the guys who are playing well. And you know what? Like, Nurse shows he could be very good, but he hasn't been. He's really struggled in the penalty kill for about 2.5 months. Now, it's not just him as one player. It's the whole unit, Ryan, Nugent Hopkins, etc. You know what? It's something to have to look at. No question.
Yeah, without a doubt. I love that line. Your money doesn't matter in the playoffs. Players will tell you all the time, right? You make your money in the regular season. You earn it in the postseason. And I like the idea of playing Kulak a little bit more. Like, Kulak and Desharnais spend obviously a lot of time together on the ice. What about just going with them to start a PK every once in a while? If they're comfortable with each other, and maybe it just takes, Darnell Nurse, not great to have that caliber of a defenseman not be reliable for you on the PK. But if him and Bouchard have to be the odd man out on the PK and the other four doing the heavy lifting, I think now's the time to trial something like that, because you don't want to be going into the playoffs with Darnell Nurse still cold on the PK and then going and having an experiment out in that area for game one of a series against the Kings. Like, that'd be foolish. So there still is a lot for them to sort out over these next 6.
Tyler Remchuk joins us here on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube and Facebook. When you look at this matchup tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights, I know they're defending Stanley Cup champs, okay, but they're also 26th in the NHL since March 1st in goals against, and 21st in the NHL since January 1st in points overall. Like, they haven't been good for quite a while, right? And that you can say, well, they've been injured. Yes, but when Petrangelo's in, who's played half of their last 17 games, their goals against average is actually worse than when he's not in. So I don't know exactly what's wrong in Vegas. We'll have Shane 90 join us in the 4:00 hour, but this team is not close to the Stanley Cup champion team.
Yeah, and especially when you look at their road numbers over the last little stretch. Like, they had a really hot run earlier in the season, and then their road numbers have not been good either. So you want to talk about, if you're Edmonton, locking up that 2 seed and making sure, I know it's kind of done right now, but if Vegas wins tonight, maybe you're a little nervous because LA is still right on you. You want to be that number 1 seed if you're Edmonton, not just because your own numbers get a lot better at Rogers Place and you really want to start the series at Rogers Place, but both LA and Vegas have not been good road teams over the last couple of months. So I think they winning this game, locking up home ice tonight against Vegas, maybe even a chance to send a bit of a message against a team that, they love beating. I think it's huge. So locking up home ice, massive. Keeping LA and Vegas on the road, just as important. It's a big swing.
Ty, enjoy the game tonight. We will chat with you tomorrow. Lots to talk about on the rundown, of course, as the Flyers. God, they are definitely not limping out of the playoffs. They are sprinting out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been wild. I know there were some reports floating around about John Tortorella's future and all that. Dreger kind of shushed that. It makes sense, but it really is painful for the Flyers. Like, coming into the year, you tell a Flyers fan, hey, you're going to miss the playoffs. It's kind of like, yep, that's expected. Rebuilding year, like, whatever. To tease them like this for the last 6 months. Like, they've been sitting in a playoff spot all year up until like 7 days ago. That's a cruel punishment to Flyers fans.
Very true. Talk to you tomorrow, my man. Have a good one.
See ya.
There you go. That is Tyler Yaremchuk. The Oil Report brought to you by Volvo Cars Edmonton.com, where hey, you can stop in. Private sale tomorrow, but the listeners of the Gregor Show, if you want to show up, they're having massively discount deals. It's a 1-day sale only from noon until 9 tomorrow at Volvo Cars Edmonton. So if you get there, just mention the Gregor Show. They'll let you in. Otherwise, private sale. So it's a good little deal if you're looking for a vehicle. Let's get to the Con Man and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by BIE Engineering, specializing in all your residential, commercial, and industrial structural engineering needs. Go to BIEENG.com.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Game day, Edmonton Oilers hosting the Vegas Golden Knights down at Rogers Place. Looking like no Connor McDavid in this one. Puck drop just after 6:30. Elsewhere, you got the Blues and the Blackhawks, and at 8:30, Coyotes in Vancouver taking on the Canucks. In the association, the Raptors in action will travel to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. Tip off about 5:35 on that one. You've also got the Mavericks in Miami. Hawks host the Hornets. Grizz take on the Cavaliers. Bucks will take on the Magic without Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has a left leg injury. The Spurs are in OKC. Nuggets host the Timberwolves, and the Suns take on the Clippers. Major League Baseball. A lot of afternoon action going on. Jays and Mariners tied at 1 apiece. That's in the bottom of the 8th. Heading into the 7th in Colorado, the Rockies lead the Diamondbacks 3-2. In the 5th, Nationals trail the Giants 5-1, and it's early, but the Rays up on the Angels 4-0 in the 3rd. Still to come today, the Guardians host the White Sox. Cubbies in San Diego. Reds take on the Brewers. The Marlins are in New York to take on the Yankees. Rangers up against the Athletics. Astros in Kansas City. And final today, Phillies get past the Cards 4-3, and the Dodgers fall to the Twins 3-2. Mets Braves postponed due to weather in Atlanta. Game 1 of the BCHL Alberta Division, a wild card series. Okotoks hosting the Spruce Grove Saints tomorrow. These two teams meeting out in Spruce Grove. Some news from the CFL. Sean Lemon has announced his retirement from the CFL. Lemon, 35, joined the Alouettes mid-season in 2023 to go on to win a Grey Cup. In 148 career CFL games, Lanman totaled 101 sacks, 31 forced fumbles, and was an all-star in 2022. And two-time Pro Bowl edge rusher Josh Allen and the Jacksonville Jaguars have agreed to a 5-year, $150 million contract extension, which includes $88 million guaranteed. He's coming off a career-high 17.5 sack season and is now the third highest-paid player in the league behind Nick Bosa and Chris Jones. Coming up in hour 2 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by the head coach of the Edmonton Riverhawks, Jake Lanferman, as well as Daily Faceoff insider Frank Seravalli. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440.
To the dog. It's after 3 o'clock. Welcome back. It's game day on Sports 1440. Frank Seravalli will join us coming up in about 20 times. We'll go 20 minutes. We'll go more in depth on the Coyotes situation. Something that's probably, some would say, long overdue. But I still do have empathy for those fans in that market because it sucks to lose your team. No question. I don't care how many it is either. You don't have to. Oh well, they can't. Who cares? There's some fans there that the current ownership I don't think has done them any favors for a long time. I think that's a market that eventually get a team again, but with better ownership and a better arena. We'll see how it goes. It is the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Lotto 649, $28 million up for grabs. And, of course, Oilers and Vegas tonight. If you've never tried it, use the promo code SPORTS50 to get your free $50 wager at PlayAlberta.ca. And just a note, do not expect Connor McDavid to play tonight. Now, let's get to our baseball report brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. And it's starting to heat up outside, so you do not want SWAS in your home. So you're thinking about an AC unit. Don't wait. Get it now. No interest, no payments for 1 year on your AC unit at legacyheating.ca. We are joined by a gentleman who played his minor ball in Sherwood Park, then went on to the St. Albert Prospects Academy, ended up playing in the Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and now, of course, is the head coach for the Edmonton Riverhawks. Jake Lanman joins us. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I want to kind of talk about, like your journey a little bit to becoming the coach here. Obviously, you have a lot of playing experience. When did you get the coaching itch at all? Because you're a fairly young guy.
I'm not too sure if I did. It just kind of fell in my lap. So after retirement, a few years back, I had a good opportunity to help out and coach the University of Alberta program, and that kind of opened the door to be the hitting coach for the Riverhawks in that inaugural year, and then just kind of transition into where I'm at now, which I'm obviously super grateful for.
In baseball, as the head coach, you mentioned being the hitting coach. You're obviously pitching coach. We kind of know, but when you're the head coach, Jay, how different is it? Like, are you a jack of all trades? Like, what's your approach to be the main guy for a baseball team?
I think it's just bench management. So obviously, I have a great staff around me that they work wonders. So kind of. I trust the pitching coach. He's got the bullpen, and obviously it's my decision at the end of the day who's coming in or who's coming out and whatnot. So I guess a little bit of that jack of trades, but of all trades. But it's just kind of that the free pass to give it to the umpires. Sometimes I think the assistants don't have that, so maybe that's the one up.
Now, where do you come out on the analytics side of are you a guy who plays the analytic numbers but then plays a gut feel? Do you go heavily on the analytics? What's your thought when it comes to which guys you're going up against and when you're bringing in different guys?
We obviously have like a ton of analytics at our fingertips with a couple of different programs that we get to use, but I would say a little bit half split. It's you obviously see the game going towards that more and more, and if there are situations where I can put in more lefty batters against a right-handed hitter or vice versa, then we're obviously trying to play the splits. But I don't know. You see situations like even the Rays pulling out Snell in that playoff game, and you have situations like that where they're so heavily based on analytics, or even Barrios last year in the playoffs, and it's the game's changing in that aspect, that's for sure. But it's still based on a lot of feel, in my opinion, and I think the best coaches really bridge that gap very well.
Yeah, the Barrios decision is one that still has many scratching their head. The Jays fans get fired up just thinking about it, even this long ago. So now let's move ahead to to your team. You've obviously been around the organization for a while as you've worked your way up through the ranks. Can you get a sense of what you have for your club this year?
Yeah, I think we got some very veteran guys that we can trust that are coming back. So to name a few, like from the staff, we got Riley Barrett, we have Halen Knoll, we have Matthew Ridsdale, who are local guys that were all conference players, and Knoll was the pitcher of the year, which is for the WCL, which is awesome. We got Tommy Takayoshi and some good sticks. I think just in general, learning from last year and trying to get better every year, we've dipped into the junior college pool a little bit more than last year per se, and trying to get that diversity of more players that have more innings, I guess, on the pitching side of it. I think that's the biggest problem we have is we get these big Division I named guys, and hey, you get him for the summer, but you only get allocated 20 innings or 30 innings. So it's trying to play, I guess, that puzzle.
Yeah, so the allocation of the innings, right? Because you know what, you look at baseball right now, and I've been reading all the stories. Like, there's a lot of people concerned about baseball and what's happening to all the injuries to the pitchers, right?
Yeah.
How do you follow that, Jake? Do you have an idea on what you think the problem is? How would you try to curb that from your position?
Well, I just think from old school baseball, obviously guys are throwing less, so. It's just in that position where we're not trying to push starters here past 100, 120 pitches. Like, we're not trying to get to that extent. We want to keep guys a little bit lower. We want the workload to not be, I guess, abusive for these guys, just in the sense that they do loan us these pitchers from University of San Diego and these big D1 programs. So we want to take care of their guys, and we want to send them back to school. Obviously, better baseball players, better young men, but healthy. That's a major thing as well. So. It can be tricky for sure, but trying to just get it as smooth as we can.
Jake Lanman joins us. He is the head coach of the Edmonton Riverhawks, of course, inching closer to the start of the season. I think you start on the road in late May, and then you have your home opener in June. Jake, when do the guys all start coming into town?
Yeah, so we got report day on the 27th, I believe. And you got these guys starting to head up. A lot of D1s or these other programs that have very late playoff pushes, they might join us on that first six game road stand and then come home with us. But I believe we're in Bellingham and Ridgefield, so we'll be on the West Coast. But that's kind of how it works. You get a few days turnover to implement a few plays, get the guys gelling a little bit, and then you're right at it. So obviously them playing as much as they can at school is a good transition for them to not get cold at all, I guess. But as soon as they come, that's our job to win ball games and get them all together to have good chemistry.
Now, you got a new pitching coach this year in Mark Goodman, right? So kind of take me through that process and understanding and knowing kind of, how he works and vice versa. And what do you think he's going to bring to your staff?
Yeah, I think there's a wealth of knowledge that he has. Obviously a little bit older than myself, but he's just an individual with a ton of experience. He coaches right now at the Colorado School of Mines, and I've actually played against that program when I was down in Kansas. And they do the way they handle themselves and the way their pitching staff kind of competed was something that stood out against me when I played, actually. So I have a lot of respect for that program, and obviously when we had the opportunity to hire him, I think with everything that he brings, and he just seems like a fierce competitor, which is something that we're really trying to just implement and have a great staff that can help us. It's pretty sweet that he struck out Ricky Henderson too. Yeah. That was a cool stat, eh?
Well, I think that's in his first pro outing. He's facing off against maybe the greatest leadoff hitter of all time, and you get to you strike him out. So that's definitely not a bad thing. Looking at your schedule, I'm curious as a coach. You guys basically just kind of have like 4 homestands. It's long strips on the road, then you have a long homestand, then you're on the road for a long time. Is that good or bad? Or do you know yet?
This is the first year that they've actually implemented these longer homestands. So, I mean, we are the most northern team, and it is a little bit of a flight for a lot of these teams in Washington, Oregon, and BC. So they're trying to switch it up a little bit on us this year. And I think it's the less travel, I would obviously say is better. It is a very pro-like schedule of 54 games over just over 2 months. And so the least amount of travel we can kind of have and bad road trips / turnover times, I think the better. So we're excited to have those homestands and see the fans piling in here again at REMAX.
Well, it should be a lot of fun, Jake. We look forward to talking ball with you all year. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
There you go. That's Jake Lanman, the head coach of the Riverhawks. So, yes, if for those of you who are going down, man, that was a great place to watch. Well, it's a great facility, but, man, they did a great job last year of, I think, really, really getting people excited to want to go down to the ballpark. They got lots of unique promotions in game. The kids absolutely love being able to run on the field. And I don't care what age. I have seen teenagers out there. They're loving it, young kids, 5 or 6, and that's one of the it's one of the unique things. It's just something that, it's might seem like a small thing, but it's a big deal. And guess I don't think it's any surprise that you see the Elks did the same thing. People love it. I see adults, you see kids, like it's just something for them about getting on the field, where the pros are playing. They enjoy it. And why not? Like, imagine, obviously it'd be way harder. Imagine if after every Oiler game, some kids, if you brought your skates. Now, see, it's different, right? You just go to the football game, the baseball game, and just walk on, right? Like, you probably don't want everybody bringing all their skates in, right? But if you had a draw where so many people after the game, they go back to their car, you got 10 minutes, you come in and go skating, trust me, people would eat that up. I think it would be amazing. So I can see why it's such a hit with the kids and even their parents to let the kids, because a lot of them are like, let's leave. No, we're not leaving. I want to stay right till the very end because they want to run on the field. So it's pretty cool. 3:16. When we return, a guy who broke the big story earlier today that the Arizona Coyotes will no longer be the Arizona Coyotes. There is a deal in place that they will be going to Utah at the conclusion of this season. Nothing's officially signed, but it's far enough down the road that Frank Seravalli was reporting on it. He will join us next. What does this mean to the NHL? What kind of renovations they're going to have to make in Utah for their facility? People were talking about expansion to Utah. Obviously, that's out of the question. Could we just see expansion 2 or 3 years down the road and going back to Phoenix? We'll discuss all that on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
You see their crews working, in some cases blocking traffic, but
Continue on a lovely Wednesday afternoon. Happy hump day. It's almost done. And hey, by the way, Gord has a steal right now on the tickets for tonight's game. 300 bones. It's going to Alzheimer's. We've got about an hour left in the auction because, of course, an earlier start tonight. So if you want to go, 2 great seats, lower bowl where the Oilers attack twice. 833-401-1440, and you can help out Alzheimer's research, which is fantastic. Now, let's get to around the NHL. And there's some big news around the NHL today. Brought to you by McDonald's, where they're all locally owned and operated. And, hey, stop in, get great deals right now. More importantly, though, you'll support the local community and Ronald McDonald House. Did you know that there's a percentage of all sales that go directly to keep Ronald McDonald House afloat, which allows families the ultimate comfort at one of the worst times of their life when you have kids and in the stallry. So that's what the local owner and operators do here with Ronald McDonald House. As we welcome in from dailyfaceoff.com, gentleman who broke the story earlier today that the reign of losing is over for the Arizona Coyotes. Now, it's not 100% official, but it's obviously far enough down the road that Frank Seravalli has been reporting on it. Players have been getting notice that it looks like this is all but done. And Frank, you and I have talked about this for the last few months here, and I went back and said, man, Smith obviously wanted a team. He was willing to sell his soul for that tweet on the the ill-advised tweet that came out at the same time as the 5 players were announced that they were going to court. But and then last week he's talking about how, hey, what would you name a team if we got a team? Like, nobody ever does that unless they're getting a team. But it seems like this has kind of come together really fast here in the last 3-4 days. Tell us kind of how you uncovered this, and what's is there anything new or exciting that you think's coming down the pipe here for Utah and I guess unfortunately for Arizona fans?
Well, Jay, it's been in the works for a couple weeks, and what I would say is that it's not at the finish line yet, and it's certainly not across it. And I'd say there's a healthy, I don't know if fear is the right word, but everyone just wants to get this on paper with a signature as soon as possible. They don't want Alex Meruelo, the owner of the Arizona Coyotes, to get cold feet. I think we could probably talk about, semantics and what the appropriate language is, but here's the best way that I can explain it to you and your listeners, which is the NHL, the Coyotes, and the Smith Group out of Salt Lake City are well down the track on an agreement that would have the Coyotes be sold and relocated to Salt Lake in time for next year. So it's a pretty, it's an enormous development for a team that has sort of wandered in the wilderness, in the desert for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's light at the end of the tunnel on that. And now the back end part of it is, will the NHL come back to Arizona in relatively short order, provided that they can get an arena built? That is potentially part of this agreement in some language as well.
So basically he would sell the team to Smith in Utah with the understanding that he would have first right of refusal to get a new team back in Arizona.
I don't think it's quite that ironclad. Okay. I think that basically there's even an extra layer in between there. He essentially has to sell the team to the NHL. The NHL has to pay him, and then the NHL takes the franchise and flips it for a higher price to Smith, and the spread in between those two prices is what the NHL gets to keep and distribute to owners as a relocation fee. And then for Alex Meruelo on the other end is basically a strict list of terms and conditions and all the things that he must do and meet, including building that arena to then potentially have the ability a few years from now, whether it's 2027 or 2028 or whatever it might be, to basically reactivate the Coyotes franchise and name.
Okay.
To then have an NHL team that's an expansion franchise in Arizona again.
Do you get the sense, Frank, and I could be completely off base on this, but sometimes I get the sense Meruelo's, more of an, big hat, no cattle guy. Like, I don't know. There's something about him that just makes me not certain. Like, he just can't ever seem to get anything really done that he says he's going to get done.
I would say I don't know him, and that analogy or image, that's not the first thing I think of. I tend to think of the way they've done business to this point as a little bit street gangster. And part of that is because they've been pretty well known to get a bill and pay you 80% of it if they pay it on time.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I just happen to take a 20% discount. I don't know if you've ever dealt with anyone like that, a vendor that all of a sudden decides what they're going to pay and when. It's frustrating. And there's been lots of instances, including some this season, that have popped up for the Coyotes that haven't made it out publicly, that have been pretty unsavory. And I think part of that has lended itself to it getting to this point, meaning,
Yeah.
I don't know that the NHL wants to do business with someone that operates that way, one. And two, I think they have a healthy amount of skepticism as to whether or not he can actually pull off an enormous development deal like this one, because it's significant. And the Scottsdale mayor was out here earlier this week calling him a, quote, rookie developer. That's a lot to pull off in a relatively short period of time. And so I don't think the NHL was comfortable with really any part of it.
Well, and I also wonder, as Frank Seravalli joins us, if, it seems like people in his own backyard don't want to do business with him.
I would say, yes, that wasn't just in the NHL's viewpoint. That skepticism was also existing in a lot of people that are boots on the ground in Arizona, that they were thinking, if this guy pulls it off, it's going to be a miracle.
Frank Seravalli joins us. So they moved to Utah, Frank. What about the arena there, right? Because I think we were looking it up, like for hockey, it might seat 14,000, which is still a step up from Mullet Arena, but I don't think that's ideally what they want. So would they have the timeline to get that done as far as renos go this year, or would that be something that would come in the future?
I don't think it's possible to make a renovation like that in that building. It's that arena is going to be a temporary stopgap solution. And it almost feels like the Coyotes are kind of coming full circle, because when they moved from Winnipeg to Phoenix and they played where the Suns play, they had the same exact setup. It was a basketball first arena where basically the one end of the building is cut off from, seeing anything. We saw that most recently with the New York Islanders in Brooklyn, where the Nets play. It's not perfect, but the point is that it's not forever. So they need a new arena in Utah at some point. It would be more multi-purpose that better suits both the Jazz and whatever this hockey team is going to be called, because they obviously are going to be rebranded. By the way, it would be such a disaster. Like, they can't, I know they've already been soliciting team names, but they can't possibly keep the Coyotes. The Jazz they were from New Orleans. They're already the biggest misnomer in pro sports. There's no Utah Jazz. They were the New Orleans Jazz. And so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there's a number of opportunities. Not only can Ryan Smith go out and privately build this for the Jazz and his new NHL team, provided that this gets over the finish line, but there's also the 2034 Salt Lake City Olympics, where it's expected to come back. There should be a flow of Olympic money that could help just get that arena built organically, that provides the NHL with additional comfort and runway.
Frank Seravalli joins us here on Sports 1440. The big news of the day, Frank broke it, reported that the Coyotes ownership group very close to selling their team to Smith Entertainment Group, of course, based out of Utah. And obviously, Frank, if this happens, I've talked about this on the rundown many times. Like when Winnipeg got the team from Atlanta, it was in late May. So this would be well in advance of that if you get a deal done. But let's say they move on April 20th, for argument's sake. Like what would need to happen between now and then, other than selling season tickets, to make them ready for next season in Utah?
A new uniform, new logo, new team name, new contracts for some of their players. They don't have a defenseman under contract for next year at the NHL level, which is important. A lot of that's normal course business, re-signing players, trading for players, all that stuff. Obviously, there's the physical move that would need to take place. There's a negotiation that would need to take place with the NHLPA on relocation stipends for the players that have purchased houses or have families or whatever. That part all goes into it kind of quietly. So that's all there. And then outside of that, it's just basically trying to hype this up as much as possible to get people excited about having NHL hockey in Salt Lake City. This is one of the fastest growing markets in the US. It is wealthy. It has a proud minor league hockey history with the teams that have played there and some big name players that have gone through Salt Lake City over the years as minor league players, particularly in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's a burgeoning tech city as well that I view Salt Lake City. I know that the NHL isn't first because the Jazz are there, but I view Salt Lake City's potential to have, maybe not from a party atmosphere because they have different alcohol laws, but I would say as a very similar comparison to Nashville in city size, attractiveness to players, all those things that would make it a pretty good fit in this league.
And it's a natural fit to just stay in the Central, right? For them. So that part makes sense.
Yeah. They're not moving from the Central.
Yeah. So no, that would make a lot of sense. What do you know the status of their GM? Like, could you see like an ownership comes in and makes a significant change? Or do you think that their management team would likely stay intact?
I'd be pretty surprised because one of the big things that Bill Armstrong has done over the last calendar year is lock up all of his people under him to extensions. Like, if you've paid attention, the Coyotes have been tweeting out and sending out releases unlike any team that I've ever seen. It's like, so-and-so is the associate assistant director of the amateur scouting, whatever. And it's like, holy smokes, I've never seen teams put out releases on extensions this far down the hierarchy in their organization, yet they've made it a point to say that it's not just to provide these people and their families some financial comfort in what's obviously, with all the rumors, a difficult environment to work in. I think it's also been because they think that they've got a good thing going in what they're building and want to try and keep it together. So my guess is that Ryan Smith would at least give Bill Armstrong and his group the opportunity for a couple years to see if they can finally get to fruition what they've been trying to put together. And I think they'd probably go from there. And how different does Bill Armstrong's job get from here? You have a team that was probably pretty tough to recruit free agents for, even though they were in Arizona. You had draft picks that when the Coyotes were picking at 6 and 12 last year, a number of players had more or less said, I don't really want to be a Coyote.
Yeah.
And they drafted 2 Russians as a result. And maybe now this just totally changes the specter of not just where they play, what arena they play in, but new owner, new spending, new all these things. It might just be a total game changer.
Well, it'll be fascinating to watch. I just think the time had come to leave Arizona. Some would say it's long overdue, and I would have a hard time arguing that. I always have empathy for fans. I don't care how many there are, but the diehard fans in that market, and people who work for the organization, some of them might not be able to uproot their families and most, so maybe they're losing their jobs. So I'm very empathetic to all that. But just like the team, when you look back at their ownership, Frank, and the team had to take over the team once. Jerry Mullins was bankrupt. Like it's just, it rarely seems like it was ever on solid ground for that long a period of time. And obviously on the ice, they never had a whole boatload of success outside of 2012.
Well, that's why they needed to go. I think, to me, this team, this image of the team, this logo being booted from 2 different municipalities, the lack of winning, they'd become a laughingstock. And I think with all that going on, they didn't have the clout to be able to get over the hump in a referendum in Tempe. And there are roadblocks, or would be roadblocks, put up to win this land auction of state land. So there's a lot that has gone into it. I think it's unfortunate because I'm actually a believer in the Phoenix market. It's the 5th largest city in the US. Mm-hmm. It's affluent. It is transient. There's a lot of people that aren't from Arizona. I think there's a lot of reasons as to why it could work. If hockey works in Vegas, why can't it work in Arizona? The reason is because they've never had good ownership. They've never really, outside of the first 5 years in the Keith Tkachuk era, never really had good teams. And that makes all the difference. Just go look at Atlanta. I'm not saying they should go back to Atlanta again, but I can't really blame anyone for pulling up stakes when the owners don't care about the product. They don't have a single playoff win, et cetera, et cetera. You got to move on at some point, and it was time to pull the plug. But I'll tell you this now, it's not going to be forever that Arizona and Phoenix doesn't have a team.
Yeah. Frankie, great stuff as always, man, on the reporting. Get some rest, and we will chat with you tomorrow.
Talk to you on the rundown.
There you go. That's Frank Seravalli from Daily Faceoff. Broke the story that the Coyotes, well down the path, as he said, nothing's officially signed yet, but he's not going to come out with that story if it's not that far down the rabbit hole to be a done deal, and could see this finalized and have it moving very quickly for the organization and going to Utah. But going back to Arizona, I won't be stunned, as we said off the top of the show, to see something like that happen at all. 3:37, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440. We'll come back. We'll hear from Matias Ekholm, the head coach of the Oilers, talk more about the Oilers coming up after 4 o'clock today. We have Mike Rupp, Shane Knighty. What the hell is going on in Vegas? Why can't they defend? Like their defense is actually getting worse as the season goes along. It's crazy. Talk about all that and more on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. You can text us 833-401-1440, and we'll get some bids. You got about 40 minutes if you want to go to the game tonight. We'll tell you how next.
Rodeo
It is game day on Sports 1440. I'm pretty intrigued about this game tonight. How the Oilers going to look without McDavid in the lineup. It's not going to be long term, but Leon Draisaitl will step up. Adam Henrique will play center ice tonight. Dylan Holloway is going to play his first game since March 5th. First game in Edmonton, that is, of course, was down in the American League. Had 8 goals in 14 games since being sent down. So see what he does tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. 833-401-1440 is our text line. We are live in the EWEL studio, EWEL.ca. Of course, your local electrical distributor. You need anything distributed electrically, they can help you out. They can also help make your projects look even better. Go to EWEL.ca. The Jays, not pretty. They gave up 5 in the top of the 10th and are now 1 out away from dropping to 6-7. They were looking for their first series sweep, but it doesn't look like that's in the books. They're going to need at least 5 runs with 2 outs. So unlikely. Probably about the same chances there are that the Coyotes don't leave Arizona right now. But it sounds like a new team name, so it won't be the Coyotes next year. Now, I'm curious about the whole Fanatics deal because, Connor, now you're more of a jersey guy than me. Did the NHL not say there was no new jerseys this year? Maybe it's just no third jerseys with the Fanatics deal. There wasn't going to be anything new coming out?
Yeah, from what I saw, that was third jerseys. So
okay,
whatever Utah goes with.
I guess they'll get that. They just won't get a third jersey.
No.
To start.
They won't be able to honor their heritage this season.
That's true. It's unfortunate. Right?
When they drop that Coyotes jersey as their third jersey.
Oh, God. Something tells me they won't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
You'd want to distance yourselves from them.
Oh,
as much as
yes. Yeah, like, sorry. It's not like it's the Whalers.
No, exactly.
Right? You do it. Hey, boys, everybody's coming in with their names. The Utah Super Soakers. How about the Salt Shakers? From BB. That one actually is funny.
What color scheme would you go with?
Oh, I have no idea. Like I'm pretty fashionable when it comes to, how I dress and look, but when it comes to like a jersey design, no, that would not be my forte. I know ones that look good. I couldn't design, dude. I can barely draw a straight line with a ruler, so that is not my forte. But I'm gonna guess that they go. They're either going to be blue or red. Is my initial gut instinct. Like for some reason, like Salt Lake kind of color, but then part of me just thinks for some reason like a light blue. But I have no idea if that's accurate. That's just what my initial, when you asked me what's my initial thought, that has to be it. What about you?
I'd like to see something non-traditional. I'm just looking at their state flag. It's red, white, and blue with a little yellow.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
So we don't need that. It's got a beehive on it. I wonder if they'll work in the bees, the Utah Killer Bees or something.
Well, there were some people that I'd seen it already that they had them in like a black and yellow bee.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know, but their state flower is the lily, isn't it? The sago lily, the Calachortus natali is the official name. If I look it up for Utah, the state flower.
Their motto is industry. Their motto is one word. Not a great motto, in my opinion.
Industry?
They have a state quarter. I hope they don't go after a flower. I wouldn't want to play for them.
Hey, boys, what about the Utah Storm and Mormons? Oh, God, that'd be great. And Low Tide's going to be so jacked up about this. This will be amazing. Oh, the Salt Lake Saints. Oof. Mm-hmm. Now, I wonder, are they going by Utah or Salt Lake? I'm guessing Utah, but I could be wrong. What would you go by? Do you go by the state or do you go by the city?
I like alliteration. So Salt Lake Sting, if you're going to work the B in or something, I wouldn't mind that. Utah's a little tougher. Like when you think of Utah, I think of the Utah Utes.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. Yeah, it's definitely not the Jazz. No one's thinking that.
No,
for sure. I'm more of a go by the city name, to be honest. I prefer that. So I think Salt Lake would be better. Just me, but maybe they will be able to go elsewhere. The Oh, gee. See this one from Hacksaw. Hey, boys, what about the Salt Lake Thumpers? Mm-hmm. Oh, I see what you do there. I see what you're doing. So, the Utah Undertakers. Well, you would have the greatest built-in meme, that's for sure. Right? Just coming out alive. Every time you made a comeback, oh, your social media team would just pump that out. Be awesome. So, hey, guys, the reddish brown of the various canyons they have there. I can't tell you if they could support a hockey team, but you can find really good street tacos. Seriously, though, lots of history surrounding the Old West. So name honoring that would be cool. From Sugar Sean. Makes sense. Right? Yeah, see, that was kind of the reddish brown is what I was thinking. When I think of Salt Lake, that's kind of what I think of, that color. So that would make sense. I see it. Hey, boys, with Connor's idea, what about the Salt Lake Shakers? Oh. Now, I do know that, you can have alcohol sales, obviously, at their games. There are definitely different rules in that state. And really, it's in certain counties. It's not the entire state. So, like, I know when I got caught over in a layover and, I got put up in a hotel in Salt Lake. There wasn't a lot open when that's why I was just like, where the hell am I going to go to eat? So that was my one complaint. But it was quite nice. Like, I will say, like, the mountain range and everything where you were, it was a very scenic place. But outside of being from the airport to the hotel and back, that's my extent I've never toured around there at all. Guys, all the Utah road signs have hives on it. I like the sting from Jana, the longtime happy listener. Nice. We're getting a lot of votes for the Soakers, but
you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can do the Salt Lake Soakers. It doesn't really jive. The humor, good, not so much. Not so much. The name. So, but I would go with Salt Lake over Utah if it's me. But he is the owner of the Utah Jazz, so maybe that'll keep it as Utah.
North side lose to the Utah Sister Wives, but what about the Salt Lake Sister Wives if you're going to play off that one?
Well, that's a little outdated, okay? Let's read up. People, read a few books. Read a few books. That's all I'll say on that.
Is that illegal there now?
Well, and there's only it's only in certain kind of like the real kind of hardcore people who take the numerous wives thing. So now it's a good question. Would I say I know there's certain places that allow it, but it's still kind of frowned upon. Like, there's actually a place in BC, right? There's a Mormon colony in BC that has people with multiple wives, right? I've read a few books on it. I like to read stuff about stuff that I have no idea, just because you kind of get a better sense of it. It's it's pretty interesting when you read up on it. Well, interesting is one word. It's also really dehumanizing in another way. When you read up on it, it's awful for a lot of the women in there. So I definitely, I don't. It's not as prominent in the Mormon community as it's projected out there, right? Like, and I get people are joking, but you know what? I think some people joke, but they don't know that it's actually not actually happening. So I just want to clarify that, because I know we probably have some Mormon listeners that are just like cringing when they hear those jokes. So I get it, because that would be rather annoying to hear, I would think, especially when it's not true. So no, it was definitely unique for sure. Like, God, if you had a daughter, in that community, it wouldn't be good at all. I just don't see how you could do that, but that's just me. So everybody's, different. I don't really like it, especially when you hear the horror stories of it. Like, some would say it borders on sexual abuse and rape for sure. So, and at least the two books I read, there's definitely a lot that would say that was the case. 833-401-1440. Greg's, where are those seats? I'm thinking on going. Yes, the seats are row 15, where the Oilers attacked twice, just on the hash marks. Okay. And Gord has it right now at a bargain at 300 bones. So if you want to go tonight, Oilers in Vegas, should be a pretty good game. And you'll be helping out the Alzheimer's side. So if you want to bid on it, 833-401-1440. We'll do that until 4:30. And then we will let the winners get their tickets, make their donation, and away you go. Few other ones coming. Hey, Gregor, what's your expectations for Holloway? That's a good question. You know what? I think when I watch Dylan Holloway play, and I've been seeing and reading a lot of people say, well, look at what Dallas is doing. Edmonton should do the same. Well, I think you have to understand, just because one young guy has success, like Maverick Bork had 71 points. He led the AHL in scoring until he got recalled. Stan Colvin had 57 points in 47 games. Right? We've never seen a young player on the Oilers lately. And I guess the one guy who did have big numbers and then called him up and he was an NHL player was Anton Lander. Right? Tyler Benson was over a point a game player. So it's not always as cut and dry. Well, this organization's doing it, so that means our young guys should have the same amount of success. It's like saying, well, how come this team's first unit power play isn't as good as the Oilers' first unit power play? Well, because they're not as skilled. They're not as good. And so, maybe Dylan Holloway's not as good as the young guys in Dallas, right? We'll see. Guys develop at different lengths, different stages too. I think, for Dylan Holloway, he really hasn't played a ton, right? Like last year, I know he played 51 games in Edmonton, but he wasn't playing a lot of minutes. Right? He's played 30 games in the American League the last 2 years, and he has 17 goals in 30 games. It's pretty good. So, you know what? For Holloway, I just want him to come up here and play as free as he can. And I think that's going to be the message from Knobloch and talking to him today about Dylan Holloway. He's just like, you know what? Just do what you did down there. He should come up here. He's got a lot of confidence. He scored a hat trick in his last game. He was really using his speed. He was physical. He will bring speed. The Oilers have enough team speed when everybody's healthy, but you take McDavid out, that's a lot of speed lost. So you put Holloway in. Right? Like, Henrique and Perry aren't the fleetest of foot. Kane can go when he wants to, but other than that, like Hyman's a good skater, Draisaitl's a good skater, Nugent-Hopkins skater, McLeod can fly, Flogel's very fast. So they have enough speed. But, Dylan Holloway, pretty heavy guy, can get him the forecheck. And, he needs to use his speed to try to make Vegas uncomfortable tonight. And if we're looking at matchups, I'm guessing Draisaitl's going to get the Eichel matchup. And although maybe they'll play William Karlsson against them, but Edmonton has the last change. So, the Hendrick line might get the Stevenson-Hurdle combination. So that would leave William Karlsson to McLeod. Like, that's a good matchup. Like, that's a tough matchup, I should say, for them. But I think there's more speed between the Edmonton third line than they have in Vegas. So let's see if McLeod and Holloway can use their speed and really go to the net. That's what I'd be looking for tonight. But and I said this before, I don't see Dylan Holloway can have a very good game. And I could tell people, if Dylan Holloway is going to play here in the playoffs, it's not going to be in place of Matias Ekholm. Because then he's on the fourth line. He doesn't kill penalties. He's going to get no minutes. If Dylan Holloway makes this team in the postseason, he's going to have to take somebody out of the top 9. So look at the Oilers' top 9 and tell me who you think he takes out. Right? Is he not taking out Nugent-Hopkins, not taking out Draisaitl, not taking out Hyman, not taking out McDavid, not taking out McLeod? Doughty's taking out Fogel or Perry. So there's Adam Henrique and Evander Kane. You think he's taking either one of them out of the lineup? Like, I would be surprised. Now, if an injury occurs in your top 9, now we have a total different conversation. Because I think they'd probably rather play Holloway there, and Janmark and Brown are better suited for what they're doing right now in the fourth line. Especially if it's a left winger. So, regardless of what Dylan Holloway, he's going to have to play well enough where the coach says, you know what, we can fit him in the top 9. Because if he's in your fourth line and he's not killing penalties, how is he playing? He's not going to get enough ice time to stay in the game. So there you go. Lance came in at 350. Mark, he beat you by a few seconds. So you can always come back in. So Lance is up to 350 now on the seats for tonight. 833-401-1440. Let's get to the con man and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by the Alberta GMC dealers. You can get up to $6,500 cash purchase credit on a 2024 Sierra Denali Ultimate, only during truck month that ends April 30th. Learn more at gmcoffers.ca.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Oilers hosting the Vegas Golden Knights. Looks like they'll be without Captain Connor McDavid for at least one or two games. Puck drop in this one set for 6:42 down at Rogers Place. earlier on. The Blues take on the Blackhawks. Then later, Coyotes in Vancouver to battle the Canucks. In the association, the Raptors return to action. They'll be in Brooklyn taking on the Nets. Tip off at 5:30. You've also got the Hornets in Atlanta. Cavs host the Grizz. The Mavericks taking on the Heat. Bucks host the Magic without Giannis in this one. Thunder taking on the Spurs. Timberwolves in Denver, and the Clippers host the Suns. Major League Baseball today, the Jays falling in extras 6-1 to the Mariners. Elsewhere, Giants defeated the Nationals 7-1, and the Phillies over the Cards 4-3. Dodgers fall to the Twins 3-2. Mets Braves currently postponed due to weather in the Atlanta area. A couple games going on right now. Diamondbacks lead the Rockies 5-3, and the Rays up on the Angels 4-2. That one is in the 6th inning. Still to come later tonight, Guardians up against the White Sox. You'll have the Orioles taking on the Red Sox, and the Royals take on the Astros. BCHL playoffs kicking off tonight is game one of the BCHL Alberta Division Wildcard Series. Okotoks hosting the Spruce Grove Saints. The two teams will meet in Spruce Grove tomorrow evening. And some news in the football world from the CFL. Longtime edge rusher Sean Lemon announcing his retirement from the CFL. In 148 games played, he had 101 sacks, 31 forced fumbles, and was an all-star in 2022. And two-time Pro Bowl edge rusher Josh Allen and the Jaguars agreeing on a 5-year contract extension worth $150 million, 88 of which is guaranteed. He's coming off a career-high 17.5 sack season, now the third highest-paid player in the league behind Nick Bosa and Chris Jones. Coming up in hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by former NHLer and NHL Network analyst Mike Rupp, also Shane Knighty, analyst for the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, Stingray radio station. CKJR broadcasts from West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin.
Download the free Stingray music app and listen wherever you go.
Christensen Communities, the name in active adult living. Enjoy retirement living without compromise. At Christensen, we understand that each lifestyle is unique. We are committed to providing choice through optional dining, personal services, recreation programs, and care plans to suit your current and future needs. Enjoy maintenance-free living and build new friendships in a safe, independent community. Large suites with full kitchens and in-suite laundry, on-site amenities, and so much more. Find out more today about our communities across the province at cdlhomes.com.
When it comes to your heavy haul trailers, don't settle for a patch job that will fall apart after a hard day's work. Bring your unit to AccuSteel Heavy Haul Trailers. They'll solve the problem once and for all, keeping you working with limited interruptions. For 25 years, their experts have been providing highway and off-road custom trailers for mining, oil and gas construction, and renewable industries. They're your industry leader in engineered heavy haul trailer frame repairs, retrofits, rebuilds, and custom trailer fabrication. Learn more at accusteel.ca.
Let's break down the McDonald's Quarter Pounder BLT. You've got B, bacon, L, and of course T, tomato. All with 100% Canadian beef. Sounds good, right? Try the Quarter Pounder BLT today at participating restaurants in Canada.
Hey Leduc, it's me, Grant Fedork from Leading Edge Physiotherapy. What you might not know is that I started practicing physio here in Leduc more than 23 years ago. In those years since, I haven't forgotten the kind and welcoming people that trusted me then. It feels great to be back, but I know we have to live up to our promise, and that's to live up to our name. This means bringing a leading edge focus on our environments, technology, communities, and the people who will care for you, like Graham Raymond and Amanda McIsaac, two locals who want to make a difference in your life. We're now open in Leduc. Learn more about us at leadingedgephysio.com.
Hey Edmonton, ready to power up your projects with unbeatable strength and efficiency? Step into Edmonton Kubota, where our massive inventory meets all your needs. From rugged tractors and loaders to nimble mowers and utility vehicles, we've got the machines that work as hard as you do. And guess what? This month, we're rolling out exclusive deals that'll make your heart race faster than our engines. Drive down to Edmonton Kubota or visit edmontonkubota.com to discover how we can boost your efficiency, productivity, and fun. Edmonton Kubota, powering your passion with every turn of the key.
When you think trucks, you think GMC. When you think GMC, you think Wolf GMC. It's truck month, and there's no better place to find your new Sierra. We have 0% financing up to 60 months or $8,000 discounts from GMC. And that's not all. We're clearing out remaining 2023 Sierras with discounts as high as $16,000. Looking for an SUV? If you're a Costco member, there's even more deals on a number of Buick and GMC SUVs. So, 0% financing, huge discounts, Costco savings, plus a great selection of vehicles. All at Wolf GMC Buick.
403. Deb is in at 400 now for the tickets for tonight's tilt, Oilers and Vegas. All the money going to help out Alzheimer's tonight. So we like that. Of course, the Pro-Am is coming up here in about just 3 weeks' time. Mark's in at 425. So there you roll. So 833-401-1440 is where you can make your bid to the con man. You got about a half an hour left. It is the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website. And hey, baby, they got their new sports book. Of course, you've got the same game parlays, player prop bets. You got it all at PlayAlberta.ca. The Oilers take it on the Vegas Golden Knights tonight as we go in the room, brought to you by Next Gen Transportation, heavy haul transport provider. Proud to be part of the MyShack group of companies and a huge supporter of numerous youth sports teams and aspiring Olympian Devo McEwen. That is nextgentransportation.com as our weekly Wednesday guest. Former NHLer. He's a Stanley Cup champion, ace analyst on the NHL Network, and color analyst for the night. We'll tell you how. Penguins Mike Rupp joins us. Rupper, how you doing?
What's up, Greg? How are we, bud?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. There is lots going on. There's rivalries. You got Laviolette freaking out that, oh, my God, he thinks the hit was so blatant and cheap. What did you think of the Zibanejad Pelech play? It sure looked like to me. Now, if you want to say it was accidental on purpose, maybe. But I don't know. If Pelech was supposed to see him out of his peripheral vision, why didn't Zibanejad see him?
Yeah, there's nothing there. There's nothing on that play. I don't see how. Listen, this is something that we know. We see every year. There's gamesmanship, especially this time of year with coaches, and you could make up whatever way you think that gamesmanship was used for. This is a team that's playing each other again here in the next couple days. They might be playing in the playoffs. There's nothing on that hit. And now the hit with Trocheck down low, I think that probably should have been a penalty. I wouldn't say it's a cheap play. It was a Dobson that hit Trocheck with 15 seconds left. You got something there, maybe get offensive zone power play with 15 seconds left. But hey, there was nothing on the situation there with Pelech and Zibanejad.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I didn't see anything of note there at all. But it's quite the race. The Islanders now, of all teams, are in the driver's seat for sure. Doesn't mean that they will win based on what we've seen in the past week. But the Penguins have put themselves in a decent spot. I think it's safe to say that the Flyers are done. My goodness, how they lost last night, I can't see how they're going to rebound. They also only have 3 games remaining. While the Penguins and the Capitals, the Caps got a huge win. Mike, you look at the Penguins' remaining schedule. You look at the Caps. If the Islanders are in, let's say they're in, then there's the Caps, the Red Wings, and the Penguins for the final spot. I'd argue the Penguins might have the best chance.
Yeah, it's I kind of think that's where it's going to go. They got a tough schedule. I mean, that last game of the season. I mean, right now it looks like the Islanders have set themselves up pretty good, but April 17th is Penn's Islanders at UBS Arena. So there's some significant matchups coming up down the stretch here in these last number of days. But it kind of feels like that. The Penguins getting a point in that Leafs game was huge. They've got they got Detroit tomorrow night. They've got to win that game. You're in win now mode. Every one of those teams has to do it. I have a feeling it'll probably end up being what we have now in the third spot of the Metro with the Islanders, and then the Penguins probably getting one of the wild cards.
Mike Rupp joins us. Mike, the big news today, Frank Seravalli breaking the news that the Coyotes, it looks like they might be coming to an end in Arizona and selling to the Smith Entertainment Group. They'll be going to Utah. So my question for you, Rupper, would you call them Utah or Salt Lake?
Ooh. I mean, are we doing that? Are we doing that because they were the Phoenix Coyotes and they changed them to Arizona? I know we have that New Jersey too. Like it's the New Jersey Devils, not particular. I mean, I guess there's no city. Not gonna call them Newark Devils. I don't know. What do you do with that? I probably would say I go Salt Lake. I think Salt Lake's got a cool vibe to it. Salt Lake is the spot that's a destination people want to go to. So I think that's going to be big if that is where the team is. That that's you want to start getting some people traveling out there, and we see that in other places. I mean, Vegas is Vegas, but when you have people that want to travel out, I find that those you want to stick to the name of the city. Salt Lake's a beautiful place. I'd go with Salt Lake.
Yeah, I kind of like the city more than the state, to be honest. So I like I prefer that. So that's just me. I know there was many years ago it was the Alberta Oilers, but I prefer Edmonton. I prefer the city for sure. I know that if you're the only one in the state, okay, but it'd be like if you're the Pennsylvania Penguins, it's just not the same as the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's where I'm at that.
No, not at all.
I think it's time for a move, though. I'll say this. What about the Rangers? You look at their underline, like their 5-on-5 numbers just aren't that good, right? Like their power play is great, their penalty kills elite, but their 5-on-5 numbers aren't that good. Are you concerned at all about the Rangers' 5-on-5 play?
Yeah. If that dries up, now if that dries up at all, you have a real path at beating the New York Rangers. I mean, the power plays are outstanding if you have them going for you, but I mean that seems to be you can kind of control that to some degree, right? Don't take penalties. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going against a team that that's power play is great, it's easier said than done. Those teams make you defend. That's why you have to take penalties. But if you're smart and you know that you can't have any dumb ones, I mean, you can kind of cut into that a little bit. Feels like you can control that. So I think that is a vulnerable point of the New York Rangers. Now, can Igor Shesterkin make up that difference? You know what I mean? And make it where he gets back to his Vezina level type goaltending and kind of, make that 5-on-5 play that lacks sometimes not feel as abrupt. We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm concerned with that. I mean, they've been a team always for me that they're almost like, I hate to say this because I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs over the last number of years have been a very fragile team. I think they're a little bit different now. And I love the Rangers and what they've got, but they are a little bit fragile like that too, where if you allow them to play their game, if you allow Toronto to play their game, if you allow New York to play their game, they will embarrass you. Thank you. But if you find a way to make that hard on them, make them kind of pivot and try to win in other ways, you've got yourself a chance because I don't know if they can. So I think that's the biggest thing with with the New York Rangers.
Mike Rupp joins us on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. And you know what? If we get to crunch time, there are a few matchups that we think are now. It's funny, it's crazy. There's only 4 games left in the season, and there's nothing that's locked in. But Florida and Toronto are pretty close, right? Boston basically needs 3 points, and they're locked into to first place. The Rangers, I guess they could collapse, but it's kind of the same thing them and Carolina, right? They get 3 points, Carolina can't catch them. So that would mean the Rangers are going to get the 8th seed. So that means Tampa's likely going to get Boston and Florida is going to get Toronto. So we'll start there. Well, what do you make of those matchups? And Toronto, down the stretch here, they played really well. And they played with a lot more gumption. Bertuzzi's been excellent. I think he's got 13 goals in his last 21 games. Domi's added some physicality to their team. Florida plays, Lomberg and Gadjevich, so I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto's going to play Reeves in that series. But what do you make of Toronto? Do you think they have enough to knock off Florida with their injuries?
You know what? The way they've been playing lately, and this just tells you how crazy our NHL season's been because all year long I've been saying I don't think anybody can beat Florida in the East. I thought the only team that could maybe give them a run would probably be Boston. Now all of a sudden I feel like Florida's a little bit vulnerable. I wouldn't be shocked if the Leafs would win that series. Like I don't know. The Leafs have been. It's all about playing good at the right time. Right now the Leafs are playing pretty darn good. Now, and Florida's not necessarily looking like they've been all season long. So can they kind of find that? It would be a battle. It'd be a good one. I'm just for the first time in quite some time, I'm not so quick to say Toronto's going to get knocked out in the first round, no matter who they play. For some reason, I just kind of feel like maybe it's because they won that round last year. I don't know. But I kind of feel like don't count them out in that first round, that they can certainly win it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like, they're not an easy out by any stretch of imagination. And Florida's kind of limping in here a little bit down the stretch. Now injuries maybe play a part in it. Now I want to switch over. Vegas is in Edmonton tonight, Robert. And I mean, looking at Vegas's numbers, obviously they started like a house on fire, but really since the middle of November, they have been a below average team. And in the month of March, right, it's kind of like, it's almost, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter how you're playing in October, November, because it helps you get points, but it doesn't matter really. Like teams are different. You know, what you've done October, November, December kind of helps your your point totals, but come playoff time, how you're playing in March is definitely usually a little bit better of an indicator. Doesn't guarantee you success, but if you're really struggling heading in, Mike, there's very few teams that suddenly just flip a switch. And Vegas defensively, 3.41 goals against per game since March 1st. That's 26th in the NHL. And when Petrangelo's in the lineup at 9 of those games, it's at 3.55. Like, what the hell's going on in Vegas? Like, they're a team that I don't know they're the defending champs, but they're not close to the defending champs right now.
No, they're not. I think part of that with them, it just feels like until they're fully healthy, and if they are able to get healthy, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this team as far as what they can be. But I feel like getting a Mark Stone in there, getting him back, changes a lot of things for that team. Still think they'll be a bear to play against in the playoffs. And you're right though. They had a stretch here for a little bit now. They've been playing good, getting wins. But they also have their 2 losses over their last however many 9 games. They've lost leads that they've had, and that they look kind of like that's a bit of an issue that's creeping in right now. But to date it back in a bigger picture, yeah, since their hot start, they haven't been very good. I don't know what to make of them. I really don't. I mean, there's nights where you're like, okay, I can see it. I can see what this team does. And at the end of the day, they're at their defense. They're not just their team defense, their D. Their D, when they're at their best, don't let you around their goaltenders. So whether that's Aiden Hill, whether it's Logan Thompson, whatever the situation is, it'll be very hard to score goals against Vegas. So can they get in that mindset, make it hard to get to the goal, come playoff time? Can they flip that switch in some regards? We'll have to see, but I don't know. It's not just because they won the Cup last year. Like, there's been plenty of years where a Cup winner the next year, I'm like, they don't scare me in the playoffs. Vegas scares me because of the way they won the Cup last year. I didn't see that kind of run coming out of them necessarily, and they were like, lock it down, playing very structured. If they get back to that, they can certainly be a dangerous team.
Yeah. Oh, well, but I don't. I guess maybe you can get back to it in 5 games. They haven't been able to get back to it. Their goals against has actually been increasing as we get later in the year, not decreasing. So that's where I'm just, I'm kind of surprised by it, and I don't see them as the big threat, as like they were when they won the Cup last year, where they had everything. And like Aiden Hill, can he stay healthy? He hasn't really been healthy for a few months. He comes back, plays for a bit, then he gets hurt again. So he is going to start tonight. So we'll see where he's at in that regard. One last one for you as we go around the league a little bit. You look at this, like, man, this Art Ross race and the Hart Trophy race, man, it's like a heavyweight battle. Kucherov gets 3 points. McKinnon's like, well, I'll get a hat trick, right? The other day, Kucherov gets 4 points. Kinnon gets 3 points. McDavid had 4 points. Now, McDavid, I think, is probably out of it now because he's going to miss tonight's game and might miss another 1 or 2 on the weekend. But, man, it's a hell of a race, and it's fun to watch.
It is. I'm so disappointed. I mean, just for selfish reasons, I picked Connor to come back in this hunt for the Art Ross, and but you got to look at the bigger picture. Obviously, this team has bigger aspirations than that. He does as well. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun all season because I'll tell you what, when Connor was quote unquote not in the race, which I don't know if he's ever out unless he's not playing. Period. it's the storylines. I feel like these guys really watch and pay attention. Where one night you'll have Kucherov with 4 points, the next night McKinnon will get 5. The next night Connor will get 5. The same night, Kucherov's following up his prior 4 with another 3. Like it's back and forth nonstop. We haven't had a run like this since what year was that? It was the Ben Crosby. I don't remember where it was when Jamie Benn, I think, won there. Ross with 87 points.
Yeah, well, that's when he had
another.
He had 10 points in his last 3 games to come back and win.
Yeah, he had 4. I think he had 4 points in the last game, or 5 points something to win it. But anyways, I'm missing another player that was in that. But there was 3 players that year that went down to the wire. We haven't seen one since that year, right? Like, and that was a while ago. And we have something special going on. No matter how it ends right now, if Connor doesn't, add to his mix very much, the fact that we've got McDavid, McKinnon, and Kucherov running it like this, I mean, it's something special.
Oh God, no! It's there was Jamie Benn, Sidney Crosby, John Tavares, Alex Ovechkin, and Voracek. In fact, that were all separated by 4 points in the final week of the season. And Crosby actually, Rupper, Crosby had the lead and then kind of choked down the stretch when he only got 5 points in his last 6 games. He actually had a game in hand and was leading the scoring race and lost it. And Jamie Benn scored 13 points in his last 5 games.
Well, yeah, and then that's the crazy part about it too is he won it with 87 points.
Yeah,
right? Like not taken away from it, but like look where these guys are at right now, and it's awesome. I love watching that story within the stories of the league.
Yeah, no, it's great to watch. Rupper, enjoy the playoff race, the Art race. Art Ross race should be a lot of fun, and we'll chat with you next Wednesday, and we might have a clear picture by then of who's in and who's out of the playoffs.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Enjoy.
You betcha. You too. That's Mike Rupp from the NHL Network and the Penguins broadcast. When we come back, Shane Knighty will join us to talk the Vegas Golden Knights. And I know we got 10 minutes left. Con will update us on the tickets. I know there's a few people going back and forth, which is great. So, but he always calls everybody, so you get one last chance. 833-401-1440. This for you. How are you? Welcome back to the Gregor Show on Sports 1440. There's a few minutes left. I got the bidding war. I know Con's working the phone, so we got about 3-4 minutes left. We want to go to the game tonight, the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. I think our last bid is at $520 right now for the tickets tonight. Great seats to see the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights, a potential first-round matchup. The Oilers most likely are going to finish second in the Pacific Division. Yes, I understand there's a chance they could catch Vancouver. I think with the Kings' loss last night, there's almost no chance the Oilers are going to fall out of second place. The Kings, the most points they can get is 101. So the Oilers and the Kings, technically then if they get 101, they would own the tiebreaker. The Oilers basically need 3 points to get 102. So they can go 1-4-1. And they're guaranteed second place. So that's why I think they're guaranteed second. It's just a matter of, if they win out or if they go 5-1 and, Vancouver goes 2-2 with that loss being Edmonton, well, then the Oilers will catch them. So we shall see. Let's get in the opposition locker room, brought to you by Action Electrical. And tomorrow we'll have all the rules for you up on our website at jasongregor.com, Sports 1440, where somebody is going to win a brand new solar system for their home, which is amazing, valued at $15,000. And you could even gift it to someone who you think really needs it. So we'll explain you all the rules from actionelectrical.net. It's a fantastic contest that will be starting on Monday. And tonight, though, it's the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Former NHLer, ace analyst for the Golden Knights, Shane Knighty, joins us once again. Shaner, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'll be honest. I'm kind of surprised because as I'm crunching, I'm a numbers guy. So I'm looking at all the numbers and like Vegas's defense, at least goals against average, is somehow getting worse as the season goes along. Like since March 1st, they're 26th in goals against, Shane. Like, and I know that Pietrangelo missed some of those games, but in the 9 he played, it was actually 3.55. Like they got a lot of good defensemen. What the hell's going on? How are they giving up so much?
Well, and I'm not going to lay it all on the defensemen, but yeah, you're right. This isn't. They defend as a group of 5, and then you throw 6 if you want to throw the goaltending in there. And they went through a stretch where really they weren't defending well. There's too many holes in their games. What would happen is, it'd be bad stretches. You're always going to give momentum away in a game, right? The other team's good. They're trying to win, but it'd be too long, and they'd get behind. It'd be the other team scoring in bunches. And it's a combination of things, whether it's the forwards, the D, some goaltending some nights. It just hasn't been there consistently. And I think that's the big word overall this season when everybody looks at this team. And, you're not going to use injuries as an excuse. Certainly I'm not. I don't know you are, because every team, well, most teams have them. They have some key guys and it does affect. But regardless of that, they have a system they played that they won the cup with, and it has not been consistent enough this season.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So you played a long time, Shane. You won a Stanley Cup. Like, I don't know if you can just flip a switch. I know the playoffs are completely different, like vastly different. But when you look at it, do you think they can? Or are you concerned that, like, here we are, we're like 4 or 5 games away from the playoffs and that inconsistency is still there?
Well, I certainly hope they can. Well, that's on them. Like, you have to ask these players. It's kind of been a question, kind of been wondering all year long. Like, even their start, when they had a great start to the season, and Bruce Cassidy said then, we had better parts of our game than the opposition, but they weren't playing great then. And then, they've had a few good stretches, but that's been certainly less of that than long stretches of good, the consistency in their game. So, I'm kind of wondering when that switch. I think they have the ability. This is, a large group of them won more than in, and it's not physical. I think this is just a mental mindset they need to get into that, hey, it's time for us as a group to come together. And they've done it. Can they do it now? I think so. Guys are talked about it really that, I think this game, maybe this can kick them into motion. Certainly there's a rivalry there. They know how good the Oilers are. It's a potential first round matchup. Probably I think the odds that it's going to happen are maybe the highest. I'm not sure, but looking at things now. So maybe tonight's the type of game that can kickstart it for them to say, hey, this is it. You can't just wait till, run these games out, kind of play them through. They're not even guaranteed locked into playoffs yet. So there's a lot to play for. And I think it's got to be a mental mindset with this group that let's get going. It's kind of been waiting to see that happen, and it's happened in spurts, but it has not happened, Like as I said, I'm going to throw the word out consistently.
Shane Knighty joined us. So you look at what's the update on Pietrangelo? Are you expecting him to be back here before the playoffs?
We have not heard word in the illness, so I think he'll probably be ready. I'm guessing when they get back, for those final home games, whether it's the last 2, 3, however they're going to roll them out. Maybe, they got Minnesota on Friday. Probably the bigger matchup, you look Sunday against Colorado would kind of maybe be the one I'd target, but we haven't got an update because we've been on the road. I'm sure hear more when we get back home where he is.
Yeah. Okay. Anything on Mark Stone? Is he been around the team at all?
He's around the team, but that's it. I have not heard a word. Kind of with that the spleen injury, you never know. I don't think there's an exact prognosis for how do you can't go in there and fix it. It's just kind of a wait and time and monitor and test and until he can get cleared to kind of get back to resume. I don't know when that'll be with him. The other guy, Nick Waugh, we'll find out on him when he might be back. Will Carrier. So there's a few guys that get a little more of an update on when they might be back when we get back to Vegas.
How's Hanifin fit in?
Oh, as a former defenseman, he has been terrific. I knew he was good.
Okay. And
maybe it's just watching every day. I didn't know he's this good. His ability to close in the neutral zone and his skating, and he's a big guy. He's mobile. He's an all-situation player, and I think he's been their best defenseman since coming over. He's logged big minutes. Certainly, Pietrangelo out of the lineup makes that happen, but he's kind of taken over the power play, which the Eichel unit instead of Theodore, they moved that. Now it's clicking a little bit better. He has been impressive. I did not know he's laterally how he can move to close off quickly. He's not unafraid to go back for pucks, make the play under pressure, moves his feet. He can either make it with a pass or he can skate himself out of trouble. So, Noah Hanifin's been a really good addition here for the Golden Knights. Certainly to this, we said the strength of this team's supposed to be the blue line and down the middle. So he's certainly added to it, and he's been really good for them.
Looking at, Mantha, another guy that came over before the deadline, how's he fit in?
Well, it was slow at first. And I think it's kind of, Anthony Mantha coming over. You look at this guy, 6'5", great hands, big body, good shot. And when he uses that and plays that way, he's effective. And I think he's found some chemistry on that line with William Karlsson. He had kind of cooled off the last 2 games, but he really rolled there for about a 6-game stretch, putting up points with playing with Karlsson and Dorofiev, who's been a nice kind of welcome addition too here, getting opportunities. So that line's been pretty good for them. And I think, Mantha, when he uses that size, gets to the net front, he's strong along the wall. He can make plays off the boards. He can be effective player. So it's just, a lot like everybody else, is bringing that each and every night to make sure he can be, an effective player in this group.
Shane, you look at the matchup tonight. There's going to be no Connor McDavid for the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, that's a big hole. But Vegas knows a lot about playing without your top guys. Vegas beat them in the playoffs last year. They ended their 16-game winning streak earlier this season. I think Edmonton, without McDavid, I would think they'd be even a little hungrier. Like, man, we want to beat this team. Ekholm said he doesn't view it as a statement game. He's more about the process of their team, but players will say things I kind of sent Edmonton here's an opportunity just to send a little bit of a message late in the season to Vegas, like, hey, we're here.
And that's the word. Every team we've gone or coach now, they're heading the playoffs. It's about the process now of building for playoffs. Well, to me, that's building your game and being ready to play playoff style hockey. So, these guys get on the ice against each other. Certainly, the Oilers and the Golden, I don't think on either side they like each other, and that's great. That makes for good hockey. They know they're good teams. The Oilers higher in the standings this year, went on a great run. The Golden Knights know they need to be better. I don't know, is it a statement game? I think there's something more to it, however you want to word it. Certainly these guys know that if you lose, it's not the end all, but they'd love to, kind of send a message. I certainly would, wouldn't you?
Oh,
if you're on one of these teams, you want to send a message, because there's a very high likelihood that they'll meet in playoffs. So I think the players, and they'll say whatever they want, but they get on the ice against each other. These games bring a little intensity, and that's great. It should, especially this time of the year.
Shane 90 joined us on Sports 1440. Shane, Aiden Hill, he was banged up. He came back, played 6 minutes, got banged up again. Then he was good for a few months. Then he got hurt, kind of left awkward. I talked to him very briefly in the hallway today and just says it's been a frustrating year for him, right? Like you've got some injuries that happen in game that you're kind of going across for pucks. And the next thing you know, you're out. How much of a concern is it that he just hasn't been able to find any consistent health and maybe to get back to that level where they rode him through midway through the second round all the way to the cup victory?
No, I'd say, yeah, if I'm a fan, it's concerning, right? You want him to be back. He had a great start to the season. Then you mentioned kind of how it's done 3 bouts of just not being able to get through and coming out and then back in. And it's not easy to keep your game at a top level when that's happening. And then, what's the mental state when you go in a goaltender in that situation to trust your body. So it's good he's back. I think when he's on top of his game, certainly we all know, we saw it last year in playoffs, what he can do. Even the win, I think the last time they met, or when Edmonton was in Vegas right after the All-Star break, he was the difference in that game. He was fantastic. And he stopped 30 of 31. So, you certainly hope he can get there. There's going to be some concern, but number one, you hope he can be healthy. He can battle through and get to his game as quick as possible because not a lot of hockey left here. Logan Thompson, outside of the last 2 starts, Arizona and Vancouver had a real good run for them, which they've been waiting for these goalies to kind of do it. And I think, they're both in a situation where I think they play their best when there's a bit of a rotation there and it's not a long run unless you get to maybe playoffs. So they need Aiden. They're a 2-goalie team and see how quickly he can get back up to speed here as he gets to start tonight.
Well, Shane, it should be a good one. A little added juice tonight. There always is when teams who met in the playoffs the year before. So it should be fun. We'll see you down at the rink. Have a good one.
You bet. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
There you go. That's Shane 90. Hey, he admitted it, man. Like they haven't found any consistency. And so we're talking 78 games now. Vegas, and the thing about Vegas, their goals against are not going down. From March 1st till now, it's 3.41. That's 26th in the NHL. From January to March, now it wasn't much better, but it was 327. Like Edmonton, on the other hand, continually drops. Right? Since March 1st, the Oilers are at 2.47 goals against. 2.4, basically a full goal against per game less than Vegas. The team that everyone's like, oh, they're really good. Well, if they're really good, then what are the Oilers? Right? Edmonton should not be intimidated tonight. They go in, you want to prove a point. There's no McDavid. But the Oilers' biggest improvement this year has been their defensive play. It should not fall apart. Now, if the Oilers don't score 4 goals tonight, I'm like, okay, then I'm McDavid. I got to live with it. But they should not suddenly start leaking goals because McDavid's not in. They've had a good foundation. That's what they need to focus on tonight. That's 4:40. It's in the opposing room, brought to you by Action Electrical. We'll come back. 5 questions. Mark Spector, Chris Knobloch, and more. And congratulations, Paulie. You're going to the game tonight, supporting the Alzheimer's Association.
I got into reffing for the excitement.
Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation YouTube and Facebook. Oilers Vegas tonight. Should be loads of fun. Let's get to 5 questions brought to you by The Brick. You can use your Flex City Brick card to make your purchase, and you get entered to win one of 2 $5,000 brick cards in the month of April. Do it now at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, Gregor with no Connor McDavid in the lineup tonight. Give me one player who you think needs to step up. I'm going to say outside of Draisaitl.
Well, honestly, there's not one player. I don't ever expect one guy to replace McDavid. So I'm going to say tonight. Well, I'm going to say Adam Henrique because he's on that second line center spot. So it's an important position, and him, Fogle, and Kane get something done. They'll be going up against that Hurdle, Chandler, Stevenson line. So I will say Henrique.
Yeah, it's kind of leaning there as well, but I'll say Evander Kane. I think a guy who we've seen him in the past be a bit of a streaky scorer, and he got a couple goals a couple games ago. So, I mean, I think if he can help out offensively, carry a little bit of that burden, then that'll go a long way for this team tonight. But overall, I agree with the statement. Can't just be one player. Question number 2 for you. If you're the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'll say the LA Kings as well, who would you rather see in the first round, Oilers or the Canucks?
Oh, if you're LA, you're taking the Canucks all day long. Like, look at their record against Vancouver in the regular season. They've dominated them, and they've really shut them down. And you know what? They've lost to the Oilers twice. I know everybody would say, hey, you know what? You want a shot again, but Edmonton's been a better team than Vancouver since Knobloch took over, right? In lots of different areas. So neither team is an easy out, I'll say that. But if LA had to pick, I think for sure they're taking Vancouver, and I think Vegas might choose that as well. Edmonton right now has been the better team for a significant period of time.
With you, always going up against McDavid and Draisaitl. It's going to be a bit of an intimidator. I do think there's always that chance Thatcher Demko can go on a bit of a run and be a guy who can.
He's going to play
goalie you, if I can use the line. But for sure, I think McDavid, Draisaitl, I want to avoid those guys in the playoffs as much as possible. Number 3, Masters getting going tomorrow. Who would your pick be to win the tournament?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to say John Rahm. I think that's going to be my pick to do so this year. I know he is one of the favorites amongst the betting areas, kind of top 5, top 3, but I like what John Rahm's done this year, so that's where I'll be going with.
Well, I could take the obvious, Scotty Scheffler, right? But I assuming, like, I'll throw him out. I'm going to try to avoid one of the favorites. I might. So if I don't want to get one of like the real top end guys, I'm gonna go with Nick Taylor.
All right. I'm going a more longer shots. I'll throw the name Tony Finau out there as well. Quickly, Tiger Woods, does he make the cut?
He's 100-1. Does he make the map? Augusta's a place where you don't have as much distance, and so I think that helps him at this later stage of his career. I just don't think he can get around the course and handle it. So no, I don't think he makes the cut.
I'm with you. I'd love to see him finish though. For old time's sake, question number 4 for you. On this day back in 2011, the Atlanta Thrashers played their final NHL game. So in honor of that, is there any market, any sport that you think needs to get their team back?
Well, if it's a very different answer if I'm going emotion to brains. If I'm going emotion, it's the Hartford Whalers all day long. But brains, they don't have a facility, so no. Followed closely by Quebec, but the owner in Quebec, I'm not sure it's the market they want, so I don't see it going there. So I'm going to say, like, I don't know if anybody needs it back, but you know what? Actually, I'll say Montreal and baseball. I would like to see baseball. I'd like to have 2 teams in Canada.
Yeah, I like that one. That was actually my non-heart answer. The heart is obviously San Diego back to the Chargers. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think the Expos or a team going back to Montreal would be something to see. Final question for you. It was on this day in 1970 when the Beatles officially broke up. So if you had to go back and look at bands that broke up famously, is there one you wish that wouldn't have done it? Maybe kept it together for a little bit longer.
Go ahead, buddy.
Scrolling through the list here. I was young when their music was out, but I still go back every once in a while and listen. I'm going to say the Fugees. Lauryn Hill, Wyclef.
Okay.
It was a good group there. Could have done a lot more. I mean, they were young, obviously wanted to all get their their separate careers going. So I understand that totally. But the Fugees were someone that I think had they kept on going, I would have started to like a little bit more.
All right. I guess I've never been a huge, music person where I'm just like, oh my God, I don't recall one that was like that gutted me. But I do know at the time NWA, that was brutal. Now I love watching them to kind of see behind the scenes and what exactly went down with it. But I'm going to go with the one on a purely selfish note that's not necessarily about their music. Cons, it was you got to remember the age at that time for me, but Fifth Harmony was a very good band to watch as a young gentleman, and them breaking up just took away some good video opportunities. So I will go with Fifth Harmony for non-musical reasons.
Reminds me of the day the Spice Girls broke up.
Oh, that was another tough one, man.
Tough day in the Halley household. Yeah.
Oh, it's tough.
My two sisters, obviously heartbroken. I, to a lesser extent, I suppose, heartbroken.
Yeah. So didn't, it wasn't, it was an unfortunate time. Now, I didn't love their music, so I'm being, honest here. But I did like watching them perform. Say that.
I imagine when the Beatles broke up, and obviously it wasn't 2024 with social media and Twitter, but that probably was pretty shocking to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. I look at any kind of big bands that break up. Like I'm sure, you go back to, and a lot of them I find and sometimes when they break up, it's just like they had a great run, right? Like it's hard for any band to maintain, greatness for a long period of time anyway. I think sometimes the bands just probably get tired. There's a little bit of infighting, whatever, being on I can't even imagine some of the stuff that they do on the road, right? Where somebody's going to annoy you, right? Especially considering some of those bands weren't necessarily sober for long stretches of time, right? So everybody has a few buddies that are just like, yeah, I really like them when they're sober and really annoy me when they're inebriated. So I could see that. So,
or like when they brought in someone to replace a band member, and it just wasn't the same. I think Motley Crue did that, if I remember their documentary tonight correctly. I don't recall it happening as a live play-by-play, but I think they tried to bring someone in at one point, and it clearly just wasn't the same. So, yeah, it kind of takes away from the greatness. Someone says like Van Halen.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure. The Police, right? Like the Police were unreal.
That just was Sting going his
Yes.
own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stars shined bright.
What about, I'm sure Cons weren't like Declan and you guys really upset when One Direction broke up?
Devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we don't even talk about that day.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the first to leave?
I have no idea.
Harry?
Yeah.
Harry Styles has some good music.
What about the Beach Boys? Because the Beach Boys was the first concert I ever saw. Yeah, I kind of have a sheltered concert life growing up, but the Beach Boys was the first one. So, their breakup was a pretty big one.
What was the reason for that one?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't really get. Struds would probably know. He'd get into the drama of it. Wasn't it? I thought it was. Oh God, what's his name? I think it was Love who kind of did his own stuff. Usually that's what happens, right? There's somebody in the band who feels like, you know what, they want to go and do their own stuff, right? And I'm pretty sure it was Mike Love, right? So that's what if somebody out there might know better, but I thought that's what was the start of it, I would think. So, hey guys, what about Fogarty leaving CCR? Yeah. And then there's some that just, like the bands that get together for a short period of time and have success, like the Traveling Wilburys. God, they were awesome, right? Lots of solo guys get together and absolutely kill it. Right nowadays, you see, almost there's like lots of people that have an album, but then they're like one song's featuring this person, another song's featuring that person. Like it's kind of smart in a way because it gets lots of people involved. And if you like, Eminem, and then suddenly he's featuring someone on his band. Oh, you like her, you like him, and then suddenly you seem to enjoy both of them. So it's good. 4:54. Mark Spector is going to join us after 5 o'clock. Oilers taking on Vegas. Remember, it's a little bit of an early start tonight. 6:42 puck drop for those of you who are going to the game. You don't want to just all of a sudden be like, hey, I'd like to get there at 6:45. Gives me 25 minutes to get my seat. Well, you'll miss some time. So remember, an early puck drop tonight because it is on national television. The Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's get to the Con Man and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Fountain Tire. They are more than just tires. They offer a wide range of auto repair and services from their expert mechanics. Go to fountaintire.com and see all their mechanical services that they have to offer.
Sports 1440 update.
It's game day. The Oilers in action tonight, hosting the Vegas Golden Knights. No Connor McDavid in the lineup expected. Puck drop, as Gregor just mentioned, around 6:42 down at Rogers Place. Two other games on the schedule tonight. The Blues host the Blackhawks. That's a 6 o'clock start. Then at 8:30, the Coyotes in Vancouver battling the Canucks. The Toronto Raptors about 35 minutes away from tip-off as they're in Brooklyn to take on the Nets. Elsewhere, Grizz are in Cleveland. Hawks host the Hornets. Magic take on the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo will not be playing in this one. Thunder host the Spurs. Timberwolves in Denver, and the Clippers welcome the Suns to town. Major League Baseball, the Jays couldn't complete the sweep as they fell to the Mariners 6-1 in extras earlier today. Other finals had the Rockies falling to the Diamondbacks 5-3. Giants over the Nationals 7-1. The Rays doubled up the Angels 4-2. Phillies get past the Cards 4-3, and the Dodgers losing to the Twins 3-2. Right now, Cubbies, Padres scoreless. Also, Reds and Brewers scoreless. Looks like they've got a little bit of a rain delay going on in Cincinnati. And top of the third, the White Sox lead the Guardians 2-0. BCHL playoffs. It's game one of the BCHL Alberta Division Wildcard Series. Okotoks hosting the Spruce Grove Saints. That one gets going at 7 o'clock. The two teams meeting again tomorrow in Spruce Grove. And from the football world, Sean Lanman announcing his retirement from the CFL. 35 years old. He appeared in 148 games in the CFL, totaling 101 sacks, 31 forced fumbles. He was also named an All-Star in 2022. And two-time Pro Bowl edge rusher Josh Allen and the Jacksonville Jaguars agreeing to a 5-year, $150 million contract extension that includes $88 million guaranteed. Coming up in hour 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by Mark Spector of Rogers Sportsnet and hear from members of the Edmonton Oilers. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
are you? Your work day could be officially over if you're making your way home. Awesome. Maybe you're getting a good start, going to the game early and getting together with some of your friends, going to OTR to watch the game, have some fun. Maybe you're going to be looking, say, hey, what does it look like? What do the people think without McDavid in the lineup tonight? Although I know that the Oilers haven't said it's official, but trust me, Connor McDavid is not playing tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers, the odds makers at PlayAlberta.ca thinking that it'll be a low-scoring game. The over-under is a lot low. It's only at 6 tonight. So Edmonton is still, though, a home favorite, which doesn't surprise you, not by much, but they're still a slight home favorite over Vegas tonight. The Oilers, of course, at home ice have been good, really good under Chris Knobloch. What are they, 26-4-2? I think it is. It's 4-1. Either way, they win way more than they lose at home. And Vegas just hasn't been a very good road team all year. And it hasn't got any better. I don't know if you just saw their last 2 road games. Arizona was an absolute disaster. I shouldn't say that. For 50 minutes, they were very good. They're at 4-1. And then in a span of 7 minutes, they gave up 5 goals. And then they gave up an empty netter late, and they lost 7-4. Like, to the soon-to-be Utah/Salt Lake franchise. That's how tough it was. And then when in Vancouver had a 2-0 lead, had a 3-2 lead, lost them both, and lost to the Canucks. So Oilers still a little bit of a slight fave tonight at PlayAlberta.ca. Let's get to the spec report brought to you by GS Construction. And I'll tell you where they're the favorite. They are the favorite if you want to get a good place, good company to work for with great benefits. Getting set to celebrate 50 years in the industry. All sorts of jobs up for grabs. Go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction as we welcome into the show from Rogers Sportsnet, our daily 5 o'clock guest, Mark Spector, joins us. Good afternoon, Spec. How you doing?
What are we naming this team in Salt Lake, Jason? What are we doing with this thing?
Well, I would say it should be Salt Lake, not Utah. I just want to preface that. I think will be better. I'm a little bit old. I like when it's the city name, not the state name. For me, I know people are like, well, what about Colorado? I'm like, yeah, the Denver Broncos. I think it works well. So I like Denver better than I do Colorado. It's just me. So
sure.
Now their owner has Utah as a Jazz, so I could see why he might want to have consistency, and it'll be Utah, right? Maybe, but I'd rather be Salt Lake. There's the Stingers people talked about. There's been a lot of other funny names that we know they won't pick, but are funny. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But this is a long time coming, Spec, that they're leaving Arizona, no question. I think it was long overdue, and it seems like the owner has really alienated a lot of people in his own community who don't really want him to get into a facility anywhere.
Well, there's a few things here. Let's work backwards. The latest one, this Scottsdale mayor has said they weren't consulted properly in terms of this big arena and all the stuff he supposedly was going to build around it is all going to have to tap into Salt Lake water. And the mayor can see what's coming. The guy's going to want a bunch of civic help, to build all the infrastructure to get the land they're auctioning off is not properly serviced at this point.
Yes. So
the mayor's coming down. He's going to ask for a bunch of help. He says, we don't have enough water for you guys. We're already in a water crunch. And I'm going to say this, Jay, the way it went in the original town they were in out there, what is it? It wasn't Goodyear, but it was, oh, come on.
Well, they had Scottsdale. They had
give me the town.
God,
the first one where the football stadium is, whatever it was, it'll come to me in a second. They blew out of there without paying their bills properly. So every ensuing municipality is going to phone the mayor of that last town and go, how'd it go with this guy? And you know what's going to happen, right? Well, he made a bunch of promises. He didn't pay his bills and he blew out of here. We had to foreclose on the arena in Glendale. Thank you. Glendale.
There you go, Glendale.
We had to kick them out of the rink because they didn't pay bills. They go to the next place and the taxpayers say, we don't want this guy. And the next place says the same thing. he's soiled the sheets down there. And they say that they're going to put him in a position to buy an ensuing team if he ever gets a rink sorted out. I'm here to tell you that's never going to happen with this guy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. I think the NHL might try to put wording in the deal that helps get it sold. And then, you know what? I think they'll eventually go back to that market. They just won't go with that owner. Right? I think there's a lot of things they're doing. I don't know if you follow, like, their social media team's an absolute gong show right now. Like, you have a real serious thing going on right now. It sounds like, the deal's being, verbally agreed to, obviously, until everything's on paper and every T is crossed and every I is dotted. It's not official. And their team's coming out, oh, we're still fighting to keep the team here. Like, they've been toying with the emotions of their fan base for a long time. They think they're witty and, it's somewhat childish. I hear it's one of the owner's son's friends or somebody who's running that thing. Either way, it doesn't look professional. There's a lot of things they haven't done this professional, so I think it's good that they move. They stay in the Central, so I think that makes it better for all the teams and everything else. And they're going to a much more solid ownership group. Now the arena they're going to, it's almost like they're going back in time because they're going to a facility that isn't built for hockey. Right. It's exactly like the original Phoenix Arena spec where, the sight lines, I think there's only going to be 14,000 people that fit in that. So, that's another temporary one where they're going to have to come up with a long-term solution.
Well, what's the long-term solution? That's what the karma that I don't like here is. That's exactly how it started in what I believe we called American Airlines Arena, the first rink in downtown Phoenix, right? That was an awful rink for hockey, and it's the same build in Salt Lake. So then the owner said, well, let's see, I'm not making much money in this lousy hockey rink of mine, so I can't afford to go spend real money on a proper hockey rink. So I'm going to go out and take a deal in Glendale that everyone said was a dumb idea when they did it, because it's like the rink in Ottawa, it's so far away. So you got to hope that the same, this guy owns Utah Jazz, he owns the building, right?
Yeah,
Ryan
he's got
Smith,
way more money.
now he's got hockey team.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
He's got way deeper pockets than any of the ownership groups ever had in Arizona. So I do think that, I think it won't.
He's going to build a new rink?
I think they're going to get a new facility. Yes.
Okay. Well, if that happens, then we're in business. But I'm with you. The similarities starting out in Utah to how they started out in Phoenix scare me a little bit, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Not sure it can get much worse. So there we go. Let's move along to the orders in Vegas. Connor McDavid's not going to play tonight, spec, but Dylan Holloway is going to get in the lineup for the Edmonton Oilers. And Knobloch talked about him a little bit. Like, I really think Dylan Holloway here, however many games he plays down the stretch, I think if he's going to make the playoff roster, he's going to have to knock out somebody from their top 9, because I think Matias Ekholm is cemented in as their fourth line left winger.
Yep, I agree with you completely. I think he's got you're right. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a third line player that he knocks out. Like, if he solidifies himself in a third line, then it's the coach's problem to figure out who's not playing every night. Right?
Yes.
And that's what Holloway has to become, is the coach's problem. Dylan Holloway has to be a guy that they look at and go, man, we can't take this guy out, right? But it's not 55. So that's his mandate. That's his job. He's going to get 2 or 3 starts here to start down that road. Now, there's going to be injuries, and there's going to be nights when it's a no play because guys are hurt. We're not there yet. They're still figuring this lineup out. So, listen, Connor's not playing tonight. Guys that aren't playing for Vegas. I mean, you can't feel sorry for the Oilers. They've had the healthiest, I'm knocking wood here, they've had the healthiest team all year. Look at Vegas, the injuries they've had. They got to be able to win games that Connor McDavid doesn't play in once in a while. Tonight will be a good start.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I don't think the Order fans definitely can't say if they lose, well, it's because you didn't have McDavid. Well, there's no Mark Stone, there's no Alex Pietrangelo, there's no Nicolas Waugh, there's no William Carrier. Trust me. Vegas has had a fair amount of injuries. Now they do have some extra players around that they've been able to fill out in the roster because of cap space and stuff because of that. So I can't ignore that fact, but it's all within the rules. Unless Mark Stone plays in the opening day of the playoffs, it's a non-factor. It's why LTIR was put in place, so you would be able to compete, and guys you wouldn't just waste that money. Is essentially what it is. The one element of the Oilers game spec that I think they're going to have to really look at here over the next 6 games is their penalty kill. It's 72.8% since they lost to Vegas on February 6th. So their last 30 games, it's 72.8. They've allowed 25 power play goals. Darnell Nurse has been on for 21. Nugent Hopkins and Ryan have been on for the most by far amongst the forwards. I really think they've got to look at adjusting that duo of Nugent Hopkins and Ryan. And Ceci plays a lot with Nurse, yet Ceci's been on the ice for he's played 8 more minutes than Nurse and been on for half as many goals. So, right, like Nurse just hasn't, and Nurse early in the year was great on the penalty kill. But since February 7th, man, he's been brutal on the penalty kill. And that's something you can't just keep running guys out, hoping that, that it's going to change. If you're on your second line, you haven't scored in 30 games, Spec, usually you get bumped down to the third line. That just happens. So,
Yep.
You know what? Matias Ekholm, Vinny Desharnais, maybe Brett Kulak, but you know what? They're going to have to take a long, hard look at why they're getting scored on so much when 25's on the ice, on the penalty kill.
Yeah, is it? I mean, I assume if the other guys aren't getting scored on, he is. It's probably not scheme. It's probably not the tactics you're using. And I think this team's got to mature to the point where it can look at one of its top. There were so many years around here where certain guys just played because they were far and away the best players in the team, and it was just, they were the best guys, and you just played them no matter what they. I think those days are gone. And Darnell Nurse is like, I get it. He makes too much money. So did every one of those guys who signed that summer. I see a lot of the value Darnell Nurse brings, and I also see when he doesn't have a good game. I get it. He carries a lot of responsibility. He's become a whipping boy in this town. I'm not into whipping boys. I don't do that. I will say to you, when he's not performing, someone needs to look him in the eye and sit him down, because he's not, just because he's the longest serving guy and he's wearing the A back there and all that. It's got to be about performance here in Edmonton now.
100%.
Right? And I'm not talking about kicking a guy out of the lineup and putting him in the press box and all that stuff. If someone's not getting the job done, whether your name is Vinny Desharnais or Darnell Nurse, you should be dealt with the same way. This team's about winning now. It's not about not hurting anybody's feelings.
100%. And the thing is, he's capable of playing better on the penalty kill because he showed it. So, you know what? Get in the film room, look at what was working earlier, and get back to it. But the Nugent Hopkins, Derek Ryan combination's another one. Like, they just might have to switch up some guys here. And so, because you can't just keep running out the same thing and expecting it to change. And just like, it's insanity. It hasn't worked. So look to make some subtle tweaks. Now, we have seen Brett Kulak get a few more penalty kill minutes, right? Could you start the penalty kill with Ekholm and Desharnais? Because usually it's Nurse and Ceci who start. And I'm not delusional. I understand that means you play the other team's top unit. Most teams' top units are better than the second unit. That's just a fact, right? So, it is harder. But maybe you try Ekholm and Desharnais first. Like, you don't necessarily change your personnel. You change your rotation.
You can change your rotation, but your rotation's also at the, it's reliant on who just was on the ice when the penalty was taken. So
a little bit,
obviously, there's times when the people on the ice dictate to you who you're playing when you're the coach. You don't always get to pick from your whole team.
No, but the majority, let's be honest, if you look at the majority of power plays, the number one unit, the McDavid's line can be on for 45 seconds. They still start the power play. And Nurse and Ceci and Ryan and Nugent Hopkins, 90% of the penalty kill, they're starting it. So you can control that a bit.
Yeah, and listen, I am completely with you. If we've hit a 2-month span of killing, and it has been poor. It basically coincided with when their streak broke. Their winning streak broke. It's since then the penalty killing has been inferior, and in the playoffs that's massive. Playoffs, you win the special teams game in a playoff game, and you probably win 85% of those games, man. It is huge in playoffs because there's usually less goals to go around, and momentum swings are bigger. So if that group's not killing the penalties the way they need to be, change them up, find something better. I'm not sure what's up with Ryan. Does like, I tend to value brains over foot speed on the penalty kill. But when an older guy stops killing penalties well for you, maybe you got to wonder if you got a fast enough guy out there.
Possibly, and a little bit smaller. You don't take up as much room, right? So it is Like I know, I know they like a lefty righty, right? You got Nugent Hopkins and Ryan, and then you have Janmark and Brown. And I understand it. Now the only one that doesn't is McLeod and Fogle. There's two lefties there, but like Adam Henrique can kill penalties if you need him to. So and his numbers are actually quite good, right? And he's a center. So if you wanted to put Brown with Nugent Hopkins, you could put Henrique with Janmark if you wanted to try some. That's all I'm saying. Like I think there's some opportunities here to try some different combinations down the stretch.
Well, Ryan's been really the last 2 games. Derek Ryan's been really good, a good player for this team. Maybe not as much
5 on
as
5. I'm just talking to
5 on 5. He's been very good, and that keeps Carrick out of the lineup. Carrick's another guy that can kill me for you. So this will go on through the playoffs. I don't see, in that fourth line center role. I mean, unless they're winning every game, which they won't be. I think Ryan will get some time out of the lineup and Carrick in and vice versa. I think those guys are kind of fighting for the same job, aren't they?
Oh, yes. And I think a lot of it might just come down to, a little bit of, who the opposition is. Coach has talked about that, right? I think that's that's a possibility to look for sure and see kind of how it goes. But you look at, who was on the ice spec. Derek Ryan was on the ice for both goals again. So was Nugent Hopkins. So was Nurse in the Calgary game on the penalty kill. So it hasn't gotten any better. Like, yes, you're playing well 5 on 5, no question. But Derek Ryan was the one lecturing you, Spec, about, it's not just about goals scored. Yeah, well, what about goals against? So if you're getting fed on the penalty kill all the time, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah, I need you as an agent next time he comes after me like that, eh? Holy cow. Well, what happened there?
Well, no, I just kind of found it funny. I'm like, hey, don't pretend that Connor Brown scoring 4 goals in 11 games doesn't allow your fourth line to be significantly more impactful. No one said, yeah, you draw some penalties, great. I've tweeted out many times, hey, fourth line drew another penalty, awesome. But at the end of the day, you got to chip in, right? Winning teams, their fourth line chips in. They don't just draw penalties. That's just a fact.
Well, they just had played. I mean, the question was, it sounds like, I asked him about the depth scoring, basically, and he had to instruct me that it was more than scoring. But in the 2 games against Colorado, the third line scored 3, and against guys scored 1 in a low-scoring game. So, you know what? All of a sudden they're scoring. I think it's fair to ask. If he doesn't want to answer, I guess he doesn't want to answer, whatever.
Quickly, you look at tonight's lineup, and Holloway's going to play with McLeod and Perry, and it looks like Henrique, Kane, and Fogle are going to get going. Are you expecting Draisaitl to get a heavy matchup against Eichel tonight? I would think so if we're, with Hyman and Nugent Hopkins, and obviously they want that matchup to go better than happened in the postseason last year.
Yeah, it didn't go well in the postseason. Had a really good series against Edmonton. So, yeah, I totally do. It's funny. They're like, who was saying today, Ekholm was saying today that, obviously you're trying to win every night, but this team's at this time of year, it's about them playing their process, finding their defensive game, killing penalties properly. Obviously, if they do all the things they want to do, they're probably going to win anyway. But winning and the 2 points isn't first and foremost. Well, Bruce Cassidy said the exact same thing in the Vegas scrum. He said, yeah, and win, but right now we got a bunch of stuff we're trying to sort out with our team, and we're trying to get our game the way we want it to be. So it's really 2 teams that are worrying less about each other, Jay, tonight of all nights. You'd think Edmonton, Vegas, it's blah, blah. That whole thing gets put aside right now because it's not a big game in the standings that no one feels like Vegas is going to catch Edmonton. And they're both not quite right. I'd say Vegas is further from right than Edmonton is, but both teams got some pencils to sharpen here, man. They're trying to win, but right now, like you talk matchups, I think tonight matchups are less important than they've ever been in a Golden Knights Oilers game.
Spec, we'll see you at the rink. Enjoy the early puck drop.
All right, looking forward to it, man.
There you go. That's Mark Spector in the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. Quick break. We'll come back. Chris Knobloch will join us. Also, Matias Ekholm, the bearded one, the Viking, will discuss his views on the Oilers, what he's looking for from his team down the stretch. Always got some pretty good responses from Ekholm. It's coming up on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. light night in the National Hockey League. Only 3 games, but a big one here in Edmonton as the Oilers take on the Vegas Golden Knights. Puck drop will be at 6:42 for those of you making your way home tonight. Maybe you're going to the game. Just a reminder, get there a little bit earlier so you're not rushed too much. And hey, get ready for the early starts. If the Oilers go deep in the playoffs, you know what happens in round 3 and 4. It'll be all 6 p.m. Well, 6:20 puck drops during the weekday games. Let's get to the lineup tonight, brought to you by Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. And they are having their grand opening coming up in 10 days on the 20th of April from 11 a.m. until 3. You can win a grand opening, including Vamoose Ranger ST e-bike, a portable power inverter generator, an outboard motor, and much, much more. So check it out on the 20th at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. The Edmonton Oilers lineup will look a little bit different than what you've been accustomed to this season because numero 9 set. Okay? On 97, if we're being correct on French. Connor McDavid will not play tonight. So Draisaitl will center Nugent Hopkins and Hyman. You will have Adam Henrique with Kane and Fogle, McLeod between Perry and Dylan Holloway, Janmark and Brown, and we think it's going to be Sam Carrick, just based on the fact that he didn't play the 2 games on the weekend. Defense will be Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Ceci, Kulak, and Desharnais. Stuart Skinner will get the start in goal tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, who come in as one of the best teams in the National Hockey League on home ice, especially since Chris Knobloch took over. The Oilers have, let's be honest, they've pretty much dominated on home ice since Knobloch took over. It's been pretty impressive to watch. They not only are they winning games, they're dominating. They've outscored the opposition 152-97. They're 26. On the season, I want to get they're 26-8-3 on the season, which is still pretty good. But under Knobloch, it's even better. They're 137 goals for, 76 goals against. They're 25-4-2. Their power play at home, 36%. Their penalty kill at home, 89%. And so they got to get their penalty kill going here because it has been leaky McLeaky. It doesn't make any sense how their penalty kill can be so good at home and so horrific on the road. They've just been getting murdered on the road on the penalty kill. It's odd, right? Like it's not like it changes that much, right? And the rules are no different, right? You start in your own zone. The power play gets to pick which side the face-off's on. That's all the same. So, but for whatever reason, their PK at home is brutal. But so Vegas, meanwhile, they have injuries of their own, but Eichel will center Barbashev and Jonathan Marchessault has got 41 goals this season. William Karlsson with Anthony Mantha and Pavel Dorvivev. You're going to have Thomas Hertl centering Amadeo and Brisson. So it looks like Chandler Stevenson isn't going to go tonight. And then Howden with Cotter and Colasar. So, late lineup change there. It looks like Stevenson is out. Hannafin's with Haig. McNabb is with Shea Theodore. Martinez and Zach Whitecloud and Aiden Hill will get the start in goal tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights. So I know the Oilers are without McDavid, but there's no Stone. There's no Stevenson. There's no Pietrangelo. There's no Carrier. There's no Nicholas Waugh. So the Oilers, let's be honest here. You can't use McDavid as the reason why you lose. You should, you should be able to compete. Now, it doesn't guarantee you win, but come on. Don't fall back on we don't have Connor McDavid, we can't win. You don't want to do it. There is one non-hockey story that I want to get to before the show's over today. I was searching this. I've been waiting for it, but some days I question people and their desire to get clicks and views on social media, specifically views like videos, right? It's kind of like what is the I don't get it. So it's kind of weird. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Hey guys, if Kucherov and McDavid both get 100 assists, do you think it takes away from what they did and puts more attention on Matthew's 70 goals if he gets it from Greg? No, I don't think so. Why? I think for for anybody who wants to, Leaf fans will say that. But when I look at the history of it, first of all, let's say Matthews gets to 70. He will be then the 9th player to have 70 goals in NHL history. Pretty crazy. If McDavid and Kucherov get to 100 assists, they're still only 4th and 5th. The fact that you had two do it in the same season just means you had two guys have unbelievable years. I don't think that makes it any less difficult. Or, think about it. You've only had 3 players get 100 assists all time, and you've had 8 get 70 goals. Right? Everybody always says assists are easier in theory, but when you get to high numbers, not necessarily, right? Like if you look at, okay, so there's 2 assist potential on every goal. Obviously, there isn't 2 assists on every goal, right? There's only 1 goal, and you can have unassisted goals. So 170, when you do the math numbers, it's actually pretty even. So I wouldn't look at it that way. Here's the thing about Matthews can score 70 goals. That doesn't mean he's the MVP. He's only been on the ice. He's only factored in on 36% of their goals. Kucherov's at 50. McKinnon's at 47. There's lots of other numbers you can look at. McKinnon's plus 33, 5-on-5. Matthews is plus 32. And actually, I think after last night, McKinnon might be up to plus 35 or 6. So he's scoring. And by the way, if you're valuable to your team, it's not just because you score goals, right? McKinnon, how about this? McKinnon is 4 assists away from becoming only the 5th player in NHL history to have 50 goals and 90 assists in the same season. So if a guy has 70 goals but finishes with 110 points, you're in on 110 goals. You have another guy who has 50-plus goals and 90 assists. Now you're in on 140-plus points. Well, I just do the simple math. One guy's more valuable to your team in that regard. So I really think it's Kucherov and McKinnon. I think McDavid has a little bit better supporting cast this year. I know that sounds crazy for Oilers fans, but it's true. And his numbers, if he's lower in point totals than them, what would be the argument to say he was way more valuable? Right? So I think he's probably going to finish 3rd in voting, maybe. We'll see. But I think it's probably between Kucherov and McKinnon. I would argue that Panarin might be more valuable than Matthews. And all these people talking about Sidney Crosby. I'm like, what? Sidney Crosby's plus 5, 5-on-5. When he's off the ice, the team's plus 5. All the other guys, there's a massive difference. McKinnon, when he's on the ice, they're plus 35 now. I just looked it up. When he's not, they're minus 8. Matthews is plus 32. The Leafs are plus 3. Connor McDavid is plus 31. The Oilers are plus 4. Right? Crosby's the exact same when he's on or the off. How can he be the most valuable to your team? I don't care what his age is. That's irrelevant to the conversation. It doesn't say most valuable to your team, and you're more valuable if you're older and less valuable if you're younger in your prime. That's not the wording. That's irrelevant to the conversation. That has nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Right? Whatsoever. So no, I think it's going to be McKinnon and Kucherov. And you can make a solid argument without disparaging the other guy. Right there. McKinnon's had an unreal year. Yes, McKinnon has one teammate who scores way more points than Kucherov's next closest teammate. But as we saw last night, when Rantanen's out, McKinnon's still pretty damn good. But then if you look at the whole supporting cast, there's 4 guys with 70-plus points in Tampa Bay. They have more combined points, the 2nd to 5th scores, than the 2nd to 5th scores in Colorado. Right? So I think it's even. McKinnon's, he's a plus 33, 5-on-5. Plus 35, excuse me. And Kucherov's plus 6. Right? Now, Tampa Bay is way worse off. They're minus 26 with him off the ice. But then I just look at the total differential between McKinnon on and McKinnon off. And we're talking 43 in Colorado, and it's 32 in Tampa. So again, advantage McKinnon. Right? Some are going to look at the 100 assists. Great. Right? They're going to look at Kucherov. He's got 50 more points than his next teammate. I understand it. So you're going to pick and weigh which one. But I don't necessarily have to look at a negative light. I would just look at which one do I view when I take all the numbers. Do I look at as the most valuable to your team? It's hard. Right? People trying to compare Sidney Crosby to even the Taylor Hall year, that's again laughable. Go look at Hall's numbers on the ice and what were New Jersey's numbers when he was off the ice. It was massively different. Don't compare him to Crosby. Sorry, Sidney Crosby, he's having a great year for a 36-year-old. But he's not having a Hart Trophy year. 2 different things. They are not the same. So at least that's my thought on it. 5:36. Hey guys, it looked like a high ankle sprain for McDavid. Well, I can tell you it's not a high ankle sprain. That I know for sure. You have a high ankle sprain, you're not going to be skating 3 days later, right? Like high ankle sprains are brutal. So I can confirm for sure it's not a high ankle sprain. I rewatched the Calgary game in the third period. There was 2 situations, one with about 6 minutes left and one with 3. And I don't know which one it is, but both of them, there's one where, it kind of looked like he fell awkwardly. He definitely got up. His favoring it's his lower body. Part of it is like, I can't say for certain, so I'm not going to lie and pretend I know what it is. But I do know for sure, having asked that it's not an ankle. I was told it's not an ankle. So that would leave a knee. That would leave maybe a hip. You know what? Is it a, thigh problem? Maybe. I don't know. But was told it was not an ankle problem. So that's probably a good thing. High ankle sprains can be brutal in how long they last. The fact that McDavid was skating on his own today, and that's another sign why, like, he's skating on his own on an optional practice day. If he was going to play, would have taken the optional, right? So, and there's zero reason to rush Connor McDavid back. The order is if they finish second instead of first, honestly, it doesn't matter. I really don't think it mattered that much. I think the Oilers could still beat Vancouver in a series if they have to start on the road. Right? Because if they finish second, Vancouver doesn't win, well, then they still get home ice for the second round. Either way. So, hey, Gregor, who gets the Vezina votes? And do you think Skinner gets any votes from Adam? I do not. I think Connor Hellebuyck is going to win the Vezina. I think of all the awards, that one might be the one. Although it's not voted on where you don't see all of the totals. But I think the Vezina Trophy is going to be Connor Hellebuyck's. Look at, did you see Connor Hellebuyck last night? And that's why when if I'm Colorado, when you go up against Hellebuyck, like he basically single-handedly, we can say McKinnon and the performance he had last night for Colorado was unreal, and it was. But Hellebuck's performance against the Predators was equally as dominant. They got outshot 44-22, and they won the game because he stood on his head. He was unreal in that game. He was as exciting as a goalie as McKinnon was scoring his goals last night. So I think the Vezina is Hellebuck's all day long, and I don't think it's going to be that close, to be honest. So now this is a fair question from Ty. Hey boys, what do you think about Knobloch's chances in the Jack Adams? Well, the playoffs have just so you know, playoffs. It's voted on before the playoffs, right? So playoffs has nothing to do with it. I look at the Jack Adams, and actually, you know what? Now let me double check that. The Jack Adams might be the one that they vote on. No, it's the executive of the year. It's voted on afterwards. I'm like, what? What's the point of that? But anyhow, because it's basically, hey, who makes it to the conference final? And they pick 3 guys. But I look at the Jack Adams. But Rick Tocchet's done in Vancouver is going to get himself a lot of votes. But it's hard to overlook Knobloch. He's got the best record in the NHL by a significant margin since he took over for a team that was really in the weeds. Now, it was a team that people thought was good. But I've always been one that, like, coaches who coach good teams should never, it can't just be like, hey, you know what? We had a coach and everybody, we were an average team and we came just above average. Okay, well, what about a team that wasn't playing up to its potential? You came in, you made some significant changes, and it's really worked. And it's never worked this long in Edmonton where they limited their goals against at 5-on-5. It's never worked, right? Like it's done for 20 games and then they fall apart. Really haven't done that. They had a little bit of a hiccup in February, yes. But overall, no, look at their numbers. 5-on-5, it's been excellent. So he could be a finalist. For sure. Like, it might be hard pressed to beat out Tocchet, and that's fair. But I think he could be a finalist. Now, I think Carberry and Washington, because not only, they had a lot of injuries too. Right? And he just kept playing guys, and, they got a lot out. He'll get some votes. Tortorella might, but the way they're floundering now, I don't think so. The other guy who might not get a lot of votes, but I think he should, because I think the way their team plays, they've been ultra consistent all year long. And, Peter DeBoer in Dallas is a guy I think that could get some love. I'm not sure he will, but he would be a guy I consider. Cons, anybody for you?
I mean, that was kind of where I was thinking. I just feel like with the coach of the year, we oftentimes look at teams that are the most surprising and not the best coach. Like DeBoer had a good team, sure. He's also on track to finish with the best record, right? Like he didn't have too many lulls. He's getting the best out of young players that are coming up and being ready to go. So I kind of like that one. I've said it many times, like, and it's not just a hockey thing. It's like almost every sport. We have a team that people don't expect to do big things. They do. And then we want to hand them the coach of the year award. I'd like to see it go to the coach who does the best job. And even if you have expectations, it's tough to manage those and get the job done. So I would not be upset about that one. I think you got to look at that guy out in Vancouver too. Did some pretty good things there.
Yeah. So let's see. 342. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you in Sports 1440. When we come back, Matias Ekholm here on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, coming in live in the EWEL studio, EWEL.ca.
You know, I got into rep.
I like, hey fellas, I'm just below you at Booster Juice. What's that one you've been pumping? I want to try it. Oh, it's the new Matcha on My Mind Booster Blend. And then ask them for the Matcha Chip Booster Ball. Doug, good luck. Enjoy it. Nice. There's a booster juice right below us. Well, yeah, pretty close to right below us. So we're on the second level here at West Edmonton Mall in the eWell Studios, and they are on the first floor. I've stopped in before. It's quite nice. I know Connor. Well, him and I don't know if you ever ventured down to that side. You're more of taking the escalator guy up before you get to the BJ, do you? To the booster juice.
Rowdy kids out there. Yeah, well, we walk down every once in a while. Brandon and I, we do the mall walks, and sometimes we venture to the other side of the mall, come back, and then hit up Booster Juice. Yeah, they're great. But you know what? I will say, I haven't got into the matcha yet.
What?
Yeah, I stick to the classics. Takes me a little while to get into these trends, so you can probably count on me getting into matcha in like 2026, probably.
Oh yeah, you're always a little bit behind the times.
I'm behind, yeah. I
We'll
want to make sure.
we'll have to get Jimmy from Booster Juice maybe to maybe sit down with you and give you a schooling on why you should try the matcha.
I want to make sure it's legit. Like, I don't start a TV show at season 1. I want it to get to season 3 or 4 before I know, it's got some staying power. But that's the thing. There's so many good options at Booster Juice, so I'm not really making a bad decision by not having them. I just go for the classic ones. I'm a big strawberry guy.
Oh yeah. Do you just stick with the smoothies?
Yeah.
Like the
the food was really good too. The quesadillas.
The quesadillas were surprisingly good.
Yeah.
So, I like the berry cream sensation. It's quite good. Right. It's one of my. I also the high impact. I don't even know how to say it properly. I say ACEA, but I'm sure that's wrong. But the ACAI, however you say it properly. And the mango hurricane. Those are pretty good.
In my grocery store days, we called it Aki.
Oh, you might be right. I have no idea.
We could have been wrong too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the smoothies, the go-to, berry cream sensation, Hawaiian sunset.
Hey boys, must is no ice double blended. Ooh. I like that. I've never had a double blend. I might have to try it. Hey, I've been teasing you, so let's get to it. Matias Ekholm spoke today, of course, the gentleman who's having a hell of a season. And he was asked about the, statement game. Does he view this as a statement game, or is there other things he's looking at for tonight?
Good question. I don't know. It's obviously we have history with them. Obviously we're fighting with them when there's a possibility of a playoff matchup. So that brings some extra attention to the game. But if it's a statement game, I don't really know. We got greater things in the future than beating the Golden Knights tonight. Obviously, we want to beat them, and we're going to play our best. But at the same time, it's a time of year where we're getting ready and getting into good habits. So, am I super results driven tonight? Probably not. It's more about the process. It's about the way we play the game and get ready for what's coming.
That's fair. The other thing is, though, he's on fire here the last few months. Defensively, he's not on the ice for many goals. He's scoring a ton. Is this the best stretch of hockey he's played in the NHL?
Yeah, I do think that this is one of the better stretches I've had in my career. Obviously, it's been not just from the points kind of standpoint. I do feel like throughout the year there's been there's a couple months there in the middle of the season where I wasn't producing a lot, but I still felt like I was contributing to the team, and I still feel like I played some good hockey. So I think it's a testament to our team, the players that we have on them, the players that I get to play with. It's not just me; it's a 6-man unit out there every shift I'm out there. So I play for a really good club, and we got some really good players to play with. And as of late, when you start kind of feeling it a little bit, scoring, and you're getting into that zone a little bit, you start to make some more good decisions with the puck. You shoot more. You tend to not think so much. And I think the last, month and a half has been somewhat of a result of that, of feeling good, and that you see a puck go in and you take that next shot too, because why not, right? So that's kind of been the mentality of my game as of late.
Like his honesty there, even for a defenseman, it's like all of a sudden things are going in, baby. I'm going to keep shooting the pill. So that's a good thing. What about the team's overall commitment to defense? Because you remember Ekholm, he was very vocal at the end of last season and even repeated at the start of this season. We got to get comfortable sometimes playing 30 seconds in our own zone and not trying to do too much and just being comfortable. Hey, we can defend, be in the right positions. The Oilers' goals against has actually continued to decrease, even in March. Lowest they've had here over the last 6 weeks. And just asked him, is there anything specific he's seen that impresses him most defensively from his team?
I think the ability to respond has been the greatest thing for us. We know we're not going to be perfect throughout the whole 82 games or even 60 minutes in games, but I feel like whenever there is a letdown, there's always a response as well. And that's, I mean, there's going to be times throughout the year where you're not playing absolutely perfect, and rarely it is, but it's all about what your next shift is like and what the next response is. And I do think we've gotten to a place where throughout the whole year, I feel like defensively, like D-zone coverage, we've been pretty good. The thing that have hurt us a bit has been off the rush, and especially early on. And I've seen a commitment there too to make that work better. And I thought the other night against Colorado was a really good, I guess, testament to that when we got to Dallas and we didn't play close to anywhere where we wanted to be, but the response was really good. So I feel like that's been a big part of why we've had some success defensively this year.
There you go. Bounce back, because you're going to have a bad game. You're probably going to have a bad game in the playoffs. And you cannot let it turn into 2 bad games. If you do, then you're probably out of the series. It's very rare you have consecutive bad games and win in the playoffs. It's happened, of course, but it just makes it way more difficult. Enjoy the game tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Remember, 6:42 puck drop, the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. No McDavid, but Skinner and Hill. Vegas has a lot of their own injuries as well. Let's get to the Con Man on a Sports 1440 update brought to you by, Booster Juice. Try the instant classic Matcha on my mind booster blend. Match it with the new Matcha Booster Ball, as Gene Principe says. A matcha made in heaven. Only at Booster Juice. Good night.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
We're about 40 minutes away from puck drop as the Oilers set to take on the Vegas Golden Knights down to Rogers Place. No Connor McDavid in this one. If you want to keep the pregame coverage going, check out the Oilers Nation YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitter streams, as Aaron Bordato's got your pregame coverage. It's pregame. And with Bordsy, 2 other games tonight. You got the Blues and Blackhawks getting going at 6 o'clock. Then at 8:30, Coyotes travel to Vancouver. In the association, the Raptors are in action, just about to get going against the Brooklyn Nets. Actually, we are midway through the first quarter. Raptors up 15-13 elsewhere. Grizz lead the Cavaliers 39-38, and the Hawks trail the Hornets 23-20. Still to come tonight, Bucks host the Magic. Spurs in OKC. Nuggets up against the Timberwolves, and the Suns take on the Clippers. Major League Baseball, the Jays couldn't complete the sweep this afternoon. They fall to the Mariners 6-1 in extras. Other finals, Diamondbacks over the Rockies 5-3. Nationals lose to the Giants 7-1. Rays over the Angels 4-2. Phillies drop the Cards 4-3, and the Dodgers fall to the Twins 3-2. Just one game to go later tonight. Athletics taking on the Rangers. A bunch going on right now. The White Sox lead the Guardians 5-4. Cubbies trail the Padres 4-2. Scoreless as the Reds and Brewers wait for a rain delay to finish up. In the third, the Marlins lead the Yankees 4-0, and the Red Sox up on the Orioles 1-0. BC HL Alberta Division Wildcard Series kicks off tonight with Spruce Grove traveling to Okotoks. That gets going at 7 o'clock. Those 2 teams meeting tomorrow as well out in Spruce Grove. In the football world, Sean Lemon announcing his retirement from the CFL. He appeared in 148 games, recording 101 sacks and 31 forced fumbles. He was also named the All-Star in 2022, and 2-time Pro Bowl edge rusher Josh Allen and the Jacksonville Jaguars agreeing to a 5-year, $150 million contract extension. That includes $88 million guaranteed. Allen coming off a season in which he had 17.5 sacks. He's now the 3rd highest paid player in the league behind San Francisco's Nick Bosa and Kansas City's Chris Jones. That'll do it for us here on the Jason Gregor Show. We've got Fox Sports Radio coming up at 9 o'clock, and then tomorrow morning, Kevin Carius, Brandon Douglas back at 7 a.m. with special guest co-host Vladdy Schmid. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440.